Hello everyone, welcome to Ryan Recommends. I gotta tell you guys, I'm really excited about this video. In today's video, we're gonna take a look at 100 Super Nintendo games that I still pull off the shelf and play today. Some of these games I've had since the mid-90s, and some are more recent pickups. I'm gonna try and separate it into chunks. You know, it's hard to rate 100 games exactly in the order of which ones I thought were my favorite, but ultimately the rules for this list in my mind were, is the game fun, and is it one of those games that when I turn it on, I just want to keep playing, or if I turn it off, I want to come back to it again. You know, can it hold my attention for more than 10 minutes? That was kind of the rule here, is it fun to play? You know, there's tons of lists out there. We can all argue, you know, which one is better, or if there's better versions that have been, you know, put back out onto different consoles or re-released or whatever. So I don't have any rules as far as that goes. You know, if there's multiple versions or sequels, everything's game. Nothing gets excluded. You know, I just picked the games that I played the most, and in some cases it may not be the most technically superior version or known as the best version or whatever. It was the ones, for whatever reason, when I go to choose a game off of my shelf, these were the games that I wanted to play, and for whatever reason captivated me and have held my attention over all these years. For those of you that don't know a lot about me, I've been buying and selling games for 15, almost 20 years. My first console was an NES, but the Super Nintendo is really where I spent my most time as a child playing. And even as an adult now, I come back and revisit these games. And so that's why I was so excited to do this video, is I got a chance to kind of go through my collection and see some of the games that I remember playing and all the fun times I had with them. So gonna be a little bit of a long video. We're gonna try and go through them as fast as we can. So what we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna go through them in chunks, and if you stick around to the end, you get to see my top 20, which I think are some of the best, and there might be a few surprises in there. And then after that, I've got a couple of games that are on a lot of people's top lists that, while I haven't sold them out of my collection, you'll be surprised they aren't even in my top 100. And so stick around to the end. I'll show you those. You may be surprised which ones I chose. And like I said, you may be surprised, you know, which ones creeped into my top 20. So sit back, relax, enjoy the video. Let's do this. Okay, first game on the list, RoboCop vs. Terminator. RoboCop vs. Terminator is actually a game that I didn't pick up until later in my collecting days. But if you just saw there, it says Interplay, which is actually, as we go through this list, you'll see they make a lot of my favorite games. But if you look at the game's cover, it says Virgin Games. So I always tried to look out for games made by Interplay, and so I kind of overlooked RoboCop vs. Terminator for a while I was collecting, not really giving it much thought. But as an adult, I had nostalgia for the movies, so I thought, what the heck, let's pick up this game and see what it's all about. Plus, it's got a fantastic cover, and if you guys ever see the actual box art, it's really cool. It's got like a 3D effect to it. So, RoboCop vs. Terminator, fun game, run and gun, shoot, good sized sprites. Not going to go down as the best game of all time, but it cracked into my top 100 list just because when I feel like having a little fun and blowing things up, this is a fun game to have. So, RoboCop vs. Terminator. Okay, next on the list, Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse by Capcom. This is a good side-scrolling platformer. It's got good graphics, decent sound. My kid loves playing it. I love playing it. It's got some mechanics in here that make it kind of fun. Good animation, you know, for the time. 1 or 2 player, which is also fun, so if you want to play with somebody, it allows you to do that. You know, most of the Mickey Mouse games across all the platforms are generally pretty good, but this one here is one we always seem to come back to and play, especially with my son. If he wants to play a 2-player game, he's always asking, "Hey Dad, let's play 2-player." Real simple, jump, hop, bounce on things. You can pick stuff up and spin it, and then ride those up if you want to. So it's kind of a fun mechanic. So you can ride them up. So, fun game. I highly recommend it. The Magical Quest, starring Mickey Mouse. Alright, next one is Super Off-Road. I remember playing this in the arcades, and this is a super fun game. Fun multiplayer game. It's nothing special in the graphics category, but if you give it a chance, it's actually pretty fun. It actually allows you to upgrade your truck as you go along. And that's really fun. The kind of a strategy of, you know, which parts to upgrade. So you got nitros or acceleration, tires, top speed. And you know, you can actually see a pretty good difference in your truck and the way it handles around these little tracks. Now, what can be kind of crazy is the steering here. So when you start going one way versus the other, all of a sudden it seems like the steering reverses based off the orientation on the screen. So just always know, right is right, left is left, no matter which way your truck is facing. So, fun game. Seems easy, but wait till you guys play it if you never have. It's a lot more challenging, a lot deeper game than on surface value. So, Super Off-Road. Highly recommended, very fun. Should be able to pick this up for pretty cheap. Okay, next game on the list is Lemmings. So we just went from a fast, action-packed racing game to Lemmings. And for some people, Lemmings, when you fire this up, might appear boring or strange or like, what am I doing? But if you haven't been exposed to Lemmings, basically you use these little guys as a team to solve puzzles and levels by assigning each one of the lemmings a different role within the level. So some of them dig, some of them can stop them from going a certain direction. And the whole idea is here is they come out of there and you're trying to use the skills down here at the bottom to get them all to the end without them dying. And believe me, after some trial and error, you'll figure out real quick. And it's kind of funny when they start to die, but I'll let you guys find that out. So Lemmings, slower paced game, but a lot more strategy, which makes it real fun. So, Lemmings by Sunsoft. Highly recommended. Okay, next up is the Combat Tribes. Or is it Tribes? I don't know. It's got kind of a goofy name. But I was looking for some other action side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and I had never heard of this game before until recently. And so I picked it up, knowing it wasn't a highly rated game, but I thought, well, what the heck, let's see what it's all about. And while it's maybe not the most polished game ever, it's pretty fun, you know? It gives you a little something different, and I like beating guys up. So, you know, what the hell. Show you a little gameplay here. So, it's a little bit slow, the animation's a little choppy, but it's fun. It's, like I said, it's not going to be in my top 20, but sometimes when I'm looking for something a little different, this game does the job. So, if you're in the mood just to kick some butt, have some mindless gameplay, you guys got to check this one out. There you go, recommended. Alright, next on the list, Tin Star. So Tin Star was a game that eluded me for quite some time. I didn't know what to quite make of it based off the cover. I'm like, are you a sheriff? Or are you a robot? I don't know what that is. Is this a Western? It's a little confusing is what it is. You can play different levels here. So this one here is a little bit of a bonus level, but essentially you have these targets. Yeah, I didn't do so well there. But you can see it's got some funny looking characters. Add a little charm to the game, but this is basically what most of the game looks like. Is you move the cursor around and you just try to shoot everything and not let them shoot you. So simple, but challenging. Kind of fun, cartoony. You know, it's not ultra realistic. My son likes to play this one. So, if you need something, you can probably pick this up for pretty cheap. It's a fun game. So, 10 star. Recommended. Okay, next up is Cool Spot. And if some of you are going, what's Cool Spot? Well, if you've ever had 7-Up and you see that red dot on the can, yeah, he was a mascot back in the day. And he was part of the totally rad, cool 90s. And so, I've had this game forever. And like a lot of these games on the lower end of my list, not the most polished games, but this game's a fun platformer. Kind of a collect-a-thon type game. And you cruise along here in the beach and you can shoot, you can jump, you try to collect the red spots. It's got kind of a fun, laid-back atmosphere and music to it. And as you die, actually, your cool spot starts to look a little more injured. If you see here when I die. You see it up there in the corner? So Cool Spot. Fun game. And great tie-in. A lot of nostalgia for the 7-Up Cool Spot guy. So if you want kind of a fun platformer, Cool Spot. Recommended. Okay, next on the list, Pitfall, The Mayhem Adventures by Activision. So this game I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I'm always putting it in to play it because Pitfall to me, from back in the Atari days, has some meaning. And this game has some pretty good animation and colorful graphics. I've never beat this game. I always have fun with it, but it's always challenges me more than you think. Kind of similar to Cool Spot, where you run around, you can throw and jump and platform and look out for pitfalls. So, and you get a boomerang and all sorts of other stuff. So, fun game. If you're just looking for something different, Pitfall, The Mayhem Adventures. Recommended. Okay, so this next one is Cool World. This is a tie-in to a cartoon from back in the, I believe it was the 90s as well. And I really didn't know if I wanted to put this game on the list, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and maybe that's why it won over. I mean, it's probably one of the worst games on the list in a lot of ways, but it's also one of the quirkiest, and if you give it a try, it can be fun if you don't expect it to be perfect. It's kind of one of those games that's so bad that you keep playing it, just because the visuals and the things they have you doing and the characters are just different than anything in any other video game, so you kind of just want to explore all that the best you can. I mean, just look at the graphics here. It's just, everything just looks crazy in my mind. It's very easy to die if you don't know what you're doing, but you guys gotta check this out. Cool World, odd game. Like I said, if you don't like it, this isn't the best game, but man, it's just so different and crazy that I had to put it on the list so that you guys could check it out. Alright. Cool World by Ocean. Alright, next game, Flashback. Now, this game is another game that I wasn't sure if I wanted to put on my top 100 list, but again, this is the games towards the bottom. But I do pull this off from time to time. If you can see the animation here, it's one of those few games that were on the system that had this like cinematic animation type look. And it's still just for some reason draws me in, even though the gameplay can seem very kind of slow. And that is the one thing that bothers me about this game, but the visuals and some of the things that it has you do once you get playing are kind of strategic, and as long as you're willing to play within the rules of playing slow and methodical within the game, it's kind of one of those ones where you walk around, you can pull out a gun, you can shoot, you can move around. I mean, the visuals are pretty nice, but you just got to be patient with the one. If you get it, you'll get fun out of this game. So, Flashback, kind of a love-hate relationship, but is recommended. Alright, so what you don't see on a lot of people's lists are fishing games. Because generally, let's admit it, fishing games, they never put a big budget on them, and they're usually not that fun or very good at all. But Super Black Bass here is actually one that I actually go back to. Played a lot of this game. I'm really big into fishing when I'm not playing video games. It's got some cool Mode 7 graphics, and it's actually a really fun fishing game once you learn the quirks on how to catch the fish, reel it in, keep it on the line. It's got good music, I think, for what it is. Kind of got that southern outdoors sound and feel to it. I played this game actually quite a bit back in the day. So if you're looking for a fun fishing game, I recommend this one. We won't go through all this, but Super Black Bass, check it out. If you want a fun fishing game, there's some other ones out there, but this is the one I would recommend. Okay, now we're on to the next wave of games. Those first ones were inexpensive, easy to probably find for the most part, but I think are worth, if you can get a good price on them, worth a pickup. This is kind of stepping up a little bit in my mind. But this is the next batch of 20 games that I've got here. So the next one on the list here is Joe and Mac 2, Lost in the Tropics. This game's got pretty good visuals. The music's okay. We'll have to see if the original Joe and Mac ranks on my list any higher. But the second one here is a fun playthrough. It is a two-player game. I always thought that the characters were funny, and I like the setting of being back in the kind of the dinosaur caveman days, and I just find it fun. You run around with a stick and beat guys up. So anyways, Joe and Mac 2, Lost in the Tropics. If you haven't got this one, pick it up. Alright, so here's one that slipped through the cracks for my collection. Total Carnage. So I wish I would have found this game earlier. It's actually pretty fun. Total Carnage is kind of a generic name. But once I realized it was the same people that did Smash TV, I thought, gotta give this a try. So you move this little guy around and you use the actual face buttons to decide where you want to shoot. So like if you're holding X, like right now you shoot straight up, but if you hold X and Y, you shoot at an angle. Kind of over the top, dramatic, but fun run and gun game where you get different weapons. So if you haven't checked this one out, pick it up. It's kind of a game that's off a lot of people's lists, but Total Carnage, recommended. Alright, so this next one has gotten a lot of videos on the internet comparing this versus the Sega Genesis version. You know, I'm not here to tell you which one is better per se, but this game is fun. It's a side-scrolling platformer, and it's got great animation, good sound, and you know, it's fun. And if you're into the Aladdin, the original Aladdin, not the terrible one with, oh, I don't even want to say his name, Will Smith. Oh, yeah, almost did. Yeah, that one sucks. This game, though, on the other hand, is fun. Pulls in a lot of the characters and charming qualities that the movie had. So, if you guys haven't played this game, it is fun. You can already tell the music is themed after the songs in the movie. Got your little sidekick there. So, Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. Yeah, don't worry about what the other people say. Recommended. Alright, this next run of games is going to be a lot of shooters. In my mind, the shooters, as far as the fun factor goes, whether it's a really good shooter or a not so good shooter, kind of all provide the same level of entertainment for me and same level of fun. So Darius Twin, kind of on the lower end for me. I do like playing it from time to time, but is not my favorite shooter on the system. You know, I get enjoyment out of it, but just like any of these shooters, they're brutally difficult and take a lot of time to learn, you know, all the little nuances on how to play. So, Darius Twin, not my favorite shooter, but I do recommend it if you're into shooters and you're trying to build up that collection for your Super Nintendo. Darius Twin, I'd recommend it. Alright, next game up, Gradius 3 by Konami. So this is a pretty fun shooter. You know, it's got a kind of a different kind of mechanism as far as the upgrades go. But you can see here you can speed up, missile, double, laser. You know, you can choose the different type of guns that you'll have when you play through, which, you know, provides a little bit of variety to the gameplay. The only thing is the ship does seem a little slow when you first start. It just doesn't seem as action-y to me. But once you get into the gameplay and you start picking up some of the upgrades and learning how those work, all of a sudden the game changes for you a little bit. So don't just plug it in and play 5 minutes. Really give it a shot, and then the game starts to open up for you and starts to be a lot more fun. So Gradius 3, definitely if you're into shooters, pick it up. Alright, this is the one that nobody bought because it has an old man playing a guitar in a chair. But it's actually a decent shooter. So if you guys see this thing, don't be discouraged by the cover. You know, typically it's going to go for a pretty fair price. So if you don't have this one, pick it up and we'll show you a little gameplay here. You know, it's got some good parallax scrolling. I feel like the pace of this game is a little bit better than the last game that we just talked about, Gradius 3. And you can see instantly the upgrades all of a sudden go. You have a pathetic gun to something pretty amazing. So, fun game. Like this game. Probably the middle of the pack as far as the shooters for me. But get the game with the old man on the cover. If I can get it to zoom focus here. Phalanx. Get it. Okay, next game, Axelay. Axelay is by Konami. This is known as that Mode 7 shooter. I didn't get this game until just a few years ago. Totally eluded me. I didn't even know it existed, really. And when I was younger, I really wasn't into shooters. But once you fire this game up, you'll see instantly how it's a lot different than the other shooters that we just took a look at. So here we go. So you can see how the mode 7 just comes rolling up on the screen, creating kind of a weird... And you can change your weapon depending on the situation by hitting the R button. But you can see it's a really weird sense of motion, and it does take a little bit of getting used to. But if you can master this game, it is pretty fun. So, Axel by Konami. We all know Konami makes good Super Nintendo games. Highly recommended. Alright, this next one here is Biometal by Activision. There's something about this game, when I fire it up, I just get pumped up. I just love the music in this game. I mean, listen to this. You know, it's kind of like Dance Factory music, but very fast and dark, and I don't know. I mean, it could be argued if this is the best shooter on the Super Nintendo or not. Some people don't like it for various reasons, but I just love it. The visuals are really cool. You can tell the action is very fast, and for me, a shooter, I need something that's like fast visually. You know, if it's super slow, I feel like I'm going in first gear, you know, in a car. But great soundtrack, good visuals. To me, this is, you know, I go back and forth. I've got a couple more shooters to go, but I go back and forth. But this one may be my favorite shooter, even though I've ranked the other ones, just because I think the gameplay in the other ones is a little better. But visually and sound-wise, I love this game. So, Biometal, probably should have ranked it higher on my list. So, very, very highly recommended, Biometal. Okay, so next up is Super R-Type. Super R-Type, to me, takes a little bit more thinking when you play it. You can see the pace is a lot slower than the Biometal game we just looked at. But there is a level of strategy to this game when you start to get some of these power-ups. Okay, so that gave me a little more speed. I can move around. But I like R-Type for the gameplay. You know, the gameplay for me is really where it's at in this game. And you really feel like the game, for the most part, is fair. Challenging, of course, but also I feel like it's pretty fair. You know, sometimes when you play these shooters, you're like, how in the hell am I going to make it through this area? But, Super R-Type, fun game, great shooter, recommended. Okay, next game is UN Squadron, also made by Capcom USA. So this is another game I didn't pick up till later in my collecting days. But UN Squadron is a pretty fast-paced game. It's a little different than these other ones where they're all futuristic alien type games. This is more of a military style game where you get to pick a pilot. It's kind of trying to look like you're in the military with a plan. You know, you get to eventually earn money and upgrade these planes, which is a lot harder than it looks. And then, of course, you can upgrade different weapons and whatnot, which is also fun. I mean, half of these shooters most of the shooters I have on there are fun because you can upgrade and evolve as you go. But you can tell this one right away, it's more of a airplane and helicopters and tanks. So, fun game, UN Squadron. Getting distracted here. So, UN Squadron, highly recommended. Fun shooter. If you haven't got it in your collection, I would recommend it. Alright, so this last shooter is R-Type 3. This is probably the most expensive one on the list. It takes what was in the original R-Type and really just improves on it in just about every way. It's a little faster paced, visuals are better. That's what was my biggest complaint. Even though I like the original Super R-Type, it felt a little slow to me. But we'll fire up a game here and let you guys see what it's all about. You can see even from the start your ship can move around a little faster. You can charge up, which is cool, for a more powerful shot. And then this here is your little buddy that you can launch. It's kind of a side ship, and you can tell to do different things, and that's really what makes this game so fun. And you can tell how much faster the action is. So great shooter. Probably the best, arguably the best, on the Super Nintendo. So if you haven't got this one and you can afford it, get it. R-Type 3. Alright, next one on the list is Final Fantasy II. And this might be the first one in some people's eyes that's way too far down the list. My issue with Final Fantasy II isn't that it's not a good game, it's that the visuals just don't hold up in my eyes, and the pacing, and at least for the Super Nintendo version, I know they've re-released that, but again, that's not part of this list. It's purely Super Nintendo. So if you're into RPGs, this is a great game, but for me, I'm just pulling it off the shelf less and less just because I have less time as an adult. But if you've got the time to invest, it's a good story. It's just, for me, the visuals just don't hold up like they used to. So Final Fantasy II, good game. I do recommend it. Just be prepared. It's not as polished as some of the more recent offerings from Square Enix. So, Final Fantasy II, Super Nintendo. Okay, next one is Super Bomberman by Hudson Soft. I believe this one goes for a pretty good price because it's hard to come by. Bomberman has never been my favorite series ever, but this game is fun, and this is in the early life of the Bomberman series. So if you're into this, have a Super Nintendo and want to play it, it is fun. Classic Bomberman gameplay. Guess I don't have a whole lot to say about this one other than I paid a lot for it, and it's Super Bomberman. Recommended. Alright, next one up is SimCity 2000. I remember playing the original one quite a bit, but when 2000 came out, I was like, ooh, you know, how futuristic and detailed is this one going to be? And I can tell you, you can spend a lot of time building up your city. And the level of detail is pretty good for considering this is on the Super Nintendo. So if you're into these city builder games, highly recommended. I mean, take a look at that city right there. You get to control every road, building, zone, and you're always trying to keep the residents happy. So if you're into SimCity, very fun game. So SimCity 2000, recommended. Alright, so we're going to get into some fighting games now. So it's kind of similar to the shooters. I have ranked a few of the fighting games a little higher on this list, but to me all these were kind of similar fun factor. Because again, that's how we're trying to rate this list, is how fun they are. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, you know, visually is a pretty good game. You know, the animation's pretty good, the moves are pretty fun, and if you're into the whole Ninja Turtle universe, this is going to have everything you want. Is it the most refined fighter ever? No, but it's a lot better than some of the other crappy fighting games that have been put out. So, if you like fighting games and you like Ninja Turtles, get this game. You're going to have some fun with it. Like I said, it's not the best fighter ever, but it has enough moves and enough fun characters that we can all enjoy and remember from the movies that it's worth it. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Tournament Fighters. If you don't have this one in your collection, grab it. Highly recommended. Okay, next one up is the original Mortal Kombat. Of course, this is the one with all the controversy, not having blood and all that jazz. But for me, firing this one up, even though some of the later versions are more refined, there's something about, I don't know, the nostalgia and some of just the sounds and visuals of this original one that are just bring me back, and I just have so much fun with it. Now, if I was going to be serious, competitive, it's probably isn't the version I would choose, but you can usually get this one for pretty cheap, and for that, it's worth it. Boom, look at that gray blood. So, original Mortal Kombat, stiff controls, but hey, it's fun, and I recommend it. Alright, so this next one may be the most technically superior game. Remember, we said on this list that just because it's technically superior doesn't mean it's the most fun. But this is Street Fighter Alpha 2, one of the later releases on the console, and one of the largest cartridges they ever made. But the visuals and the sound are actually really good. To me, though, this game just doesn't have the charm of some of the other Street Fighter 2s on the console. And some of the artwork has kind of evolved in the Alpha series. But nonetheless, it is a fun Street Fighter. But for me, it's not my favorite. And for some of the purists, they may enjoy this one better, but for some reason, to me, it's all about the total package. You know, is the game fun? And if you notice that stuttering there, yeah, that's not me or my system. That's just the way it is. So, if you want all these characters, and you want something different than the standard Street Fighter 2, you know, Street Fighter Alpha 2, I do recommend it. Mine's beat up copy. They're hard to find and fairly expensive, so, you know, if you're looking for a pristine one, good luck. But Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter Alpha 2, I do recommend it. Good fighting game. Now here's one you wouldn't think they would crack into a top 100 list, but Clay Fighter Tournament Edition by Interplay. Remember I said I like Interplay games? But this game has more charm and character than all these games. And I find this game, even though it's probably a worse fighting game per se than that Street Fighter Alpha 2, I find this game way more fun and entertaining. And I can have a good laugh with this one way more than I do any of these, some of these other fighting games. So essentially you're these clay fighter guys, and it's typical tournament style, but everything about it's goofy, and that's what makes it so much fun. And Helga there, she's quite the character. So, Clay Fighter Tournament Edition. There's some other Clay Fighters out there, but I do recommend the Tournament Edition version of the game. To me, that's the best one. Okay, next up is Killer Instinct. Man, oh man, did I play the hell out of this game. I love Killer Instinct. Now, the Nintendo 64 version is a superior version, but if you're wanting something on the Super Nintendo, Yes, some of the animations and things are cut back, but it is still a very fun game. Great selection of characters, and they managed to pull it off. So even though the visuals are cut back, the gameplay still, to me, is very fun. And I think you can still get this game for pretty cheap. And the combos are insane. So once you learn some of these moves, you can pull off combos that are just ridiculous. Forget some of the moves here, but yep, triple combo. She's getting me. And what's cool is if you watch here, when your life bar goes down, you just get right back up where you're at. You don't do a total reset. And for me, I love that because it kind of keeps the action going. So, Killer Instinct, if you don't have this one, get it. It's probably one of the best fighting games on the system in a lot of people's eyes. So get it if you don't have it, Killer Instinct. Okay, last one for this batch of games until you start stepping up to some of the higher ranked games. But Mortal Kombat 2, definite improvement over the original Mortal Kombat. I've got a few more fighting games to go, but of these mid-range fighting games that you can get for a fair price, this is definitely one to get. And yes, there is blood in this version. To me, this one has just the right amount of characters. You know, sometimes too many characters can get kind of crazy. But Mortal Kombat 2, I spent so much time in the arcade playing this game. And so the fact that we get to play this at home on a home console is just awesome. Oh, I guess we're playing Scorpion here. Oh, so you can see the blood there. Ooh. So to me, the sound and the visuals is definitely an upgrade from the original one. So yeah, Mortal Kombat 2, amazing arcade game. Very good port to the Super Nintendo. So if you like Mortal Kombat or fighting games, highly recommended. Okay, on to the next batch of 20 games here. And this one is one that I never knew about growing up, but Mystical Ninja, or The Legend of the Mystical Ninja, by Konami. I don't know, it's just one of those quirky Japan-looking type games to me. And visually, I don't love the style, even though it's good graphics and sound, and the control's great. I mean, it's a good game. It's just kind of different. And, I don't know, maybe it's just the character design for me doesn't do a lot. But this is a pretty fun little game. And it's different from a lot of the games on the console. I mean, it's so quirky, it's kind of hard to explain. But if you want just something that's totally different, and not the same old Mario game, I guess, you know, give this one a try. There's more to it than I have time to explain here, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of gameplay. So, if you need something a little different, check out Mystical Ninja. It's a well-made game. Again, by Konami. Recommended. Next up is Final Fight, and this is the original Final Fight. I really like the whole Final Fight series, this being the first one. You know, there's some more extensive videos on the differences between all the Final Fights. I've always loved being Hagar for some reason. Only disappointment, this is a one-player game, which is the only kind of difference I'll point out. But visually, pretty good game. Sounds decent. You know, just like all these side-scrolling beat-em-ups, they can be a little repetitive, but you know, it's supposed to just be mindless fun. And so for me, when I just want to have like a structured 1 hour playthrough where I just know what I'm going to get, I love coming to these Final Fight games. And the original Final Fight, we'll see about these other ones where they rank on my list, but fun game. So if you have the other ones or you don't have any of them, you know, this isn't a bad place to start. Usually this one goes for less than Final Fight 2 or 3. So, Final Fight by Capcom. Good game. Recommended. Okay, another Konami game, Sparkster. So, to me, Sparkster just doesn't say awesome, amazing game. Sparkster sounds kind of lame. And I think the character design isn't the greatest. But the gameplay is fun, the visuals are great, and the sound is great. So I think this game, back when it was released, and over time, people are discovering it, but back when it was released, I think people initially were like, what is this, you know? Just another goofy mascot game. But the visuals you can see are the reflection in the water and the parallax scrolling in the background. I mean, as good as it's going to get, really, on a Super Nintendo, for the most part, for a third-party action platformer. I just feel like if the character would have been a little more macho, if you will, instead of this, like, goofy little guy, I think this game would have done a lot better. It's almost like too Mickey Mouse for me, but then yet it's trying to be a little more serious. But once you get into it, and if you just don't let that bother you, fantastic game, really fun. If you've overlooked this one or haven't heard of it, I definitely recommend it. High quality made game. Sparkster for the Super Nintendo. Recommended. Okay, so here's one that caught me by surprise. Saturday Night Slam Masters. Growing up, Hulk Hogan and all them, I did like watching wrestling on TV, but I didn't watch it excessively. But you can tell right away the visuals are pretty impressive. Very large sprites, kind of in-your-face attitude, which matches wrestling. But it's really the gameplay that is surprisingly fun and good in this game. Lots of different characters with their own style. Since we just did Final Fight, I'll do Hagar again. But it's kind of like they took Street Fighter 2 with the Final Fight and mixed in wrestling. And that's kind of what you get here. And you can see cool intros there. Been a while since I've played this one, but good multiplayer game. Ooh, slam him. So, in my opinion, although I'm not the biggest wrestling fan out there, to me this one is probably the best one on the Super Nintendo that you'll have fun with today. So, Saturday Night Slam Masters, grab it. Highly recommended. Okay, next one up is NBA Jam Tournament Edition. Man, if you hate sports games, if you're like one of those gamers that's just like, yo, I play everything but sports games, NBA Jam, you gotta get it. You gotta try it out. It's one of the only basketball games that I still like to play. You know, it's come out in different consoles. But the Tournament Edition on the Super Nintendo, there's NBA Jam, and then there's the Tournament. The Tournament Edition is a little bit better. We won't go into all the differences, but it's a little more refined game. But the announcer in this game is what's crazy. It's cool. It keeps your stats and all sorts of stuff, but it's very simple. 2-on-2 basketball. And you can see each player's got speed, dunk, pass, block. No, I don't believe there's Jordan in here. You just have Pippen. But what the heck, we'll be Chicago. So you can swap your players around. We'll be Pippen and Armstrong. So part of the strategy is, do you want like a quick shooter guard, or do you want to play with more like a forward/center? combination. And you have a turbo meter. Let's see if I can even pull off a dunk. Oh shoot. You can control your, I forget you can control your AI character once he gets it. I want to try and do a dunk if I can. Oh, he laid it up. My favorite thing is this, you can, when you do the turbo, you can knock the other guys over. Oh shit, stole the ball from me. Heating up! Well, you can get on fire in this game. Oh shit. There we go. Boom! Dunk. So, if you want a sports game that's really not a sports game, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, the best one on the Super Nintendo. Alright, so Super Turrican. This is one that shot up a lot of people's lists. There is a Turrican 2. This is the original one. I had no idea about this game. I don't remember seeing it on the shelves. But now that I've got it in my collection, fun game. Very fast action. You know, with your guns and everything here. You can get upgrades. Very challenging. At first here, it'll seem very simple. Like, oh yeah, you're going to be overpowered. But you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. You can screen clearing moves. But not everything dies in one hit. Like this guy here. So good graphics, very good sound, very good controls, well-polished game. So if you want something that maybe you haven't seen on everybody else's top 10, this would be a good place to start. Super Turrican. Recommended. Okay, so those of you that watch Angry Video Game Nerd or any other video game YouTube channel that makes fun of video games, LJN's always getting made fun of. This game here, True Lies, based off the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger, True Lies, not a bad game. Took me a little bit, you get some cool shots here from the movie. Took me a little bit to get into this one, but once you learn the moves and how to survive and not get killed right away, the main thing is that roll. Oh, I guess I'm shooting the waiter. I guess you're not supposed to shoot those guys. But you get ammunition. You can pick up different guns eventually. There we go, there's my automatic. So, the controls do feel a touch stiff in this game, and it can take a little bit getting used to. Oop, you're not supposed to hit the good guys. Once you get used to it, pretty fun game. So, there you go. One on the list that's halfway decent for LJN. So, if you haven't heard of this one, pick it up. Recommended. Alright, so here's one I want to spend some more time with that I actually haven't played much of since I picked it up, but I really want to. This is Soldiers of Fortune. More recent pickup for me, but I was surprised how good the graphics and gameplay are in this. And I love the strategy of it and how you get money and guns. I mean, that's something that's always fun. But you can choose your different characters, and each one has, you know, its strengths and weaknesses, and then you can, it's always with two people, so I'm doing with the CPU, so you can pick like your partner in crime, if you will. But it's similar to that True Lies game as far as the perspective. So you can shoot at different angles and you want to collect that money for the upgrades. But essentially you're supposed to go through here and, you know, clear each stage. So pretty good tunes. Upbeat. Fits the action. So basically with this game, once you learn how to dodge the bullets, you know, you tend to survive a hell of a lot longer. So there you go, guys. Soldiers of Fortune. I can't wait to play this one a little bit more than I have. You know, that always happens when you collect games, right? You get something and then you forgot you haven't played it in a while. So, but highly recommend this game. Very fun. Alright, next up is Mech Warrior by Activision. This is one where, for some reason, I like playing it better than the game is itself. I'm not a huge robot game guy, but the music in this is kind of cool and futuristic. Essentially you're a robot that you go on these missions and you earn money and you upgrade your robot, but it's based off what can affect you is the weight and the range of your missiles and your guns and everything. So you have to balance that based off the mech you have, and then of course you can upgrade the entire mech, which helps. And then there's a lot of like story here, which is kind of cool if you want to get into that. This is where you can go in and buy new mechs. And this is the headquarters, I believe. So this is where you go and you say, okay, yep, I'll go ahead and do riot duty. Just trying to jump right in to show you a little bit of the gameplay, but it's mode 7, which is crazy. So you launch here in here, mode 7. Kind of reminds you of Pilot Wings almost. But you're this mech, and you've got lasers, and you've got to control the heat and essentially try to destroy these other mechs. So the animation is choppy, but there's something just fun about it. It's one of those games that, while on surface value this can look like a crappy game, but if you get past all that, it can actually be kind of a fun mech game. So not on most people's lists, I'm assuming, but Mech Warrior I actually find pretty fun. Recommended. So you know when they talk about the Super Nintendo music, this is one of those games where the sound is just amazing. Whoever did the sound design on this did a phenomenal job. I mean, you see, it's kind of sounding a little scary, but wait till we get started here.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Let me crank this one up a little bit. Oops. You do get other weapons. Alright, so you get the idea about the music. But this game is really fun. The only bad thing is there isn't a save. But if you guys want a fun game that's a Jurassic Park tie-in, that's challenging, great pickup, good visuals, excellent sound. recommended for sure. So, Jurassic Park. Don't just think it's a cheap video or movie to video game game. Recommended. Okay, next up on the list is Wild Guns by Natsume. Now, this is one that is usually pretty pricey on the open market. And you may be wondering, well, geez, this is super expensive. Must be the best game on the system. Well, it's a good game. It's very fun. And I didn't get it till recently. But it's not my favorite game. But the graphics are really good. The action and the pacing is really good. It takes a little bit of time because what you do is you move on a plane here, you left and right, not only controls your guy, but then as soon as you start firing, you can't move. So see, I'm moving, but then watch, when I fire, I can't move. So it's a strategy of move, jump, I can let off special moves to clear the screen. Seems simple, but much harder when you actually try to execute it. Now, when you play with this 2-player, makes it a little bit easier. They have re-released this, which is good. I believe it's on on the PS4 or whatever, but this is the Super Nintendo version, obviously. So, very fun game. I would say it's more fun as a 2-player game, which actually makes it more chaotic in a way, even though it may seem a little easier at first. Just makes it to where there's more going on. So Wild Guns, definitely a very fun game. If you can afford it or find it cheap somehow, pick it up. But you can see one hit and you're done. And you only have so many lives. So it's kind of one of those games where you just got to learn the pattern. So Wild Guns, should you get it? Yeah. I mean, is it worth the price? That's up to you. I think it's a fun game. I doubt I'll sell this one out of my collection just because now that I've got it. Obviously this one's got a rip. But Wild Guns, recommended. Alright, so next one up here is Donkey Kong Country 3. Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Now, I love the first Donkey Kong and the second Donkey Kong, and you'll see them on this list later. You'll just have to keep watching to find out where it ends up in my top 100, but for some reason this third game just didn't captivate me the same way, and I don't know, maybe it's just the characters, but playing as, this baby Kong, just, I don't know, and this open world map kind of design that sometimes you can move around in, I don't know, just doesn't do it for me, I guess. I mean, the graphics and the sound are pretty on par with the first two games, but, like I've said in this and a few other things, I think the charm is lost a little bit. And the pacing and the levels and the level design can sometimes be just, I don't know, just not as fun for me. Even though visually, as far as Super Nintendo games go, I mean, it's fantastic. But I do find myself wanting to play with Dixie more just because of the, the hair spin move and all that. So, if you are trying to decide, do I get the third game? Well, yeah, go ahead and get it if you like the first two. But if you don't own any of the other ones, I would pick up Donkey Kong the first game or Donkey Kong 2 well before I would buy this one. Only get this one if you've beat the other two and you just can't get enough of it. So, Donkey Kong Country 3 is recommended. Good game. Just not as good as the other two. Okay, next up is Mega Man X2 by Capcom. So this game is phenomenal graphics and sound. I believe this card has an extra chip in it to help enhance the graphics. I'm not very good at Mega Man games. I love the games, But I don't know if I've maybe only beat 1 or 2 Mega Man games my whole life, and I've played them all, you know. Especially like the ones on the 8-bit and here on the 16-bit consoles. I think I've beaten them once. I mean, I'm just not good at Mega Man games, but I love them. I seem to always play them, have fun, even though I get my ass kicked all the time, and I can never seem to beat the levels or know which levels to do in the right order. They're just fun. And so I always pop them in. I don't tend to play them as long as some of my other games in my collection. For whatever reason, maybe the challenge eventually wears me out. I know some people are just amazing at these games, but X2 is great. So if you like Mega Man, you can't go wrong here. I mean, the controls are tight. Like I said, graphics and sound are amazing. You do have a dash move. A little health there. This is just the opening stage, of course. So Mega Man 2. Mega Man X2, I should say. If you're on the fence, don't hesitate. Just get it. It's a good game. Mega Man X2. Recommended. So I decided to put Mega Man X3 right next to Mega Man X2. You know, you can argue which one's better, but for me, like I said, this list is based off fun factor and like how much I pull it off the shelf to play it, and does it hold my attention. So for me, X2 I like a little better than X3. I mean, I guess X3 might be a little rarer, more expensive, and maybe even pushes the Super Nintendo even a little bit further, you know, graphically. But it just doesn't captivate me quite as well as X2, or we'll even see about the other Mega Mans. But still, in its own right, great game. Especially if, like I said, you're into the Mega Man universe. But for me, X3 is kind of, you can already see there's dialogue. It's like, the less dialogue, the better. You know, any of these Mega Mans that have a ton of dialogue, it's like, why, you know? So, if you like any of the other Mega Man games, I know this game's probably expensive for most people, but if you can afford it, get it. It's a good game. At least you'll know you have a good game, even if you did pay a lot for it. So, Mega Man X3, recommended. Alright, next game up is Breath of Fire. Now, there's also Breath of Fire 2 on the Super Nintendo. And I haven't shown ahead, but if you notice real quick, I don't know if you can see that. That one's Squaresoft. This one's made by Capcom. So, for me, the original, even though we'll see here in a second, Breath of Fire 2 might be a little bit more superior game in some ways. You know, the original Breath of Fire is a good game. And if you remember back on the list, I had Final Fantasy II. I don't know, for some reason I do like this one a little bit better than that. Maybe it's just the character designs or the open world or whatever, the battle system. But this is a great RPG if you're into these or you're looking for more turn-based type RPGs on the Super Nintendo. Breath of Fire, I would highly recommend it. Good game. So yeah, the original Breath of Fire by Squaresoft. Recommended. Okay, so now here's Breath of Fire 2. And so you can see Capcom already. So, you know, Capcom games on the Super Nintendo, as you get familiar with them, all kind of have a similar sound and graphical style in a way, or color palette. And so you can tell a difference right away, in my mind. The difference between these two games, even though it is a sequel, you can definitely tell it's made a little bit different. opening story here. Alright, I wanted to cut to some gameplay so you can see the little bit of difference between the first game and the second game, but you can see here character sprites are a little bit bigger, you know, the monsters are bigger. So from that aspect, that is the big upgrade from the first game to the second game. So, Breath of Fire 2, would I still get it? Yeah. If you're into the RPGs and you want something that's quality made game, get this one. Recommended. Alright, this next one on my list here is an RPG by Enix, but that's, you know, merged with Squaresoft Enix. This game, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I have started a new game, played for a little bit, given up, come back, started a new game, played a little bit. You know, it's the opening part of the game and getting your characters to a point where they're competent and can compete with the monsters. It's brutal at first, you know, and the grinding and stuff that is involved. It can be kind of tough at first, and it can make you want to give up. But once you learn kind of what you need to do to survive in these games, pretty fun. And I do like the music in this game. See if I can find my way out of town somehow. Which way do I go here? You know, this, you got your typical thing. You got shops and stores, and so you can upgrade and all that stuff. Here we go. But this is the part that'll drive you nuts. See that map there? You've got these, like, those little dots floating around are monsters. And so when you run into one, see like that? You go into this mode. It does use the mode 7. We use fire on this. So the moves and the magic is cool, and this is just the early part of the game. And you get gold and experience, but fun game. You just gotta hang in there. Hang in there with this game. It's a good RPG. Like I said, I don't know how many, I don't think I've ever beat it, but you gotta hang in there and give it a shot. The 7th Saga, maybe not as popular as, say, Final Fantasy, but if you like those kind of games, pick this one up. Okay, next up is Illusions of Gaia. Again, another Enix game. This game I have beat, and I really like this game just because it's different than the other RPGs on the console as far as the gameplay goes. It's a little more actiony. It's not as let's see if I can show you here. You know, it's a little more adventurous, the way you can walk around. I don't know if I'll be able to show you any gameplay here as far as a fight. But the music and the graphical presentation is great. So Illusions of Gaia, if you want something a little different than the Final Fantasy series, again, I would say pick this game up. I don't think it goes for as much as some of the other RPGs, but if you're kind of wondering, well, geez, what is this? You know, the covers kind of doesn't tell you a lot, right? Just pick it up. It's a good game. I'm sure you'll like it. Recommended. Alright, next RPG is Secret of Evermore by Squaresoft. This is a good RPG. Again, it's a little more to the action-y side instead of the slow turn-based combat. And it'll remind you a little bit of Secret of Mana. Let's see if I can load a game here. But you got your character, you've got a little pet that'll follow you around, help you out. You know, you can equip different items. And you can see you've got your percentage meter down there. That every time you hack at something, the percentage changes. So this is what the combat looks like. You can tell you can move around in real time. So if you want something where you're pushing buttons a little more often than, say, a turn-based RPG, Secret of Evermore, really love this game. I did beat this back in the day. Pretty solid graphics and sound. Good story. Secret of Evermore. Recommended. Okay, last one in this batch of games. And like I said, we can argue which one of these RPGs is better or should rank higher overall on the list. Secret of Mana, I did play a lot of this game. I don't tend to revisit it as much as I used to. But if you haven't played it, very good game. But you'll see as I run around, it kind of reminds you of that last game, Secret of Evermore. Kind of same menu system that pops up. This has been re-released on some more modern consoles. It has that same percentage bar down there, where when you attack things, you know, so you can't just spam the button, you have to actually, you know, try and figure out and time, you know, your attacks. So Secret of Mana, great game. I would highly recommend picking it up. Really good story. Probably the best of this recent group of RPGs as far as the story goes. So if you can get Secret of Mana, grab it. Recommended. Okay, I know this next one's going to probably get me some comments, but Super Mario Kart is the first one in the next batch of games here. Next batch of 20 games. No doubt, great game. Super fun. I just, personally for me, and I like pretty much all the Mario Karts. For me though, I can't tend to play this game for too long. It's more like, alright, let's have 3 to 5 races and then I'm done. Now I have a blast doing that. Now if it's multiplayer and I play 2-player, I can tend to play for maybe an hour or so with a friend. But just by myself picking it up, you know, it's just something nowadays that, you know, if I haven't experienced it before, I would pick it up. But because I've played this game to death, I just don't play it as often. But for me, it doesn't reduce the fun factor. It's just that I don't pull it off the shelf as often. So for that reason, I moved it down the list. That's why it's not going to be in my top 5 or top 10 like maybe some lists that you see out there. So, fun game. Definitely get it if you don't have it, or if you're wanting to experience it again, grab it, because it is something you want in your library. But for me, Super Mario Kart, I just can't play it for as long as I used to. But great game nonetheless. So, if you need a good kart or 2-player game, kart racing game or 2-player game, pick it up. So, Super Mario Kart, recommended. Alright, next up is another racing game, F-Zero. So, for me, F-Zero is kind of the same level of fun factor as Mario Kart, in a different way, but still a very fun game. To me, this game is kind of like Mario Kart in the sense that it's very simple, and it can bore me after a little while, but for 30 minutes maybe, I have a blast playing it. And it's like one of those games that in short durations, I have a blast playing this game. Kind of brings me back to when I played it when it first came out. But again, it's one of those games, for me, I just can't sit here and play F-Zero for 4 hours straight. It's more one of those games that, okay, pop it in, play it for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, get my fun enjoyment out of it, get some action going, you know, racing around a few tracks. But again, if you haven't experienced it before, you got to get F-Zero in your collection. It's just kind of one of those must-haves. But as far as, are you going to sit down and play it for, you know, an entire weekend straight? For me, personally, no. Especially since I've played it before. If you haven't, maybe you will do that the first time you play it. But as of right now, today, as of making this video, fun game, but I just can't play it forever. So again, that's why it kind of ranks on the same level of fun factor for me. So F-Zero, recommended. Alright, so here's a game that eluded me for a while. I played the other Final Fights quite a bit, but this is Final Fight 3. And I don't know, I think the graphics are better, and it is a two-player game, which is great. It's not a one-player. Definitely the graphics are better. I don't know if I love the sound as much in this game as maybe some of the other versions. But the sprites are big and clear, fairly fast-paced. So if you like these side-scrolling beat-em-ups, you definitely got to get your hands on Final Fight 3. I do think this one goes for a pretty good price. That's probably why mine's got a pretty beat-up label on it. I just wanted the game. I didn't care about the condition because, you know, obviously condition raises the price. But if you guys can grab this game, definitely get it. Great two-player game. A little variety of new moves that the other games don't have per character. So Final Fight 3. I can tell you this before I turn this one off. I have played this one a lot. Now this is one that I'll pull off the shelf all the time, just because I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a good solid hour, maybe an hour and a half of entertainment. I've beat this game several times, and it's always a fun playthrough. So Final Fight 3, highly recommended. Might be harder to find, but if you can get your hands on one, get it. Okay, next up is Earthworm Jim. Oh my gosh, when this game came out, I think I bought this game new when it came out. You know, you want a game that's got some character and some charm and it'll just make you laugh, then that's Earthworm Jim. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that's what I like about it. A lot of people complain about the Earthworm Jim games as far as the level design or the difficulty of it, but if you don't mind some of that, I mean, just look how over the top everything is. I mean, even when you shoot guys, I mean, look, I mean, a worm hanging from my head. You can whip your, like, look right here. You've got a cow on a stick. I mean, look, you launched a cow. I mean, so it's just stuff like that this game has so much charm. I mean, and the graphics and the sound are phenomenal. So if you want something different than kind of your hop and bop type side-scrolling platformer, and you want a little comedy mixed in, Earthworm Jim's where it's at. Earthworm Jim, recommended. Next one up, Earthworm Jim 2. So to me, I think they realized they had something going here, and they just made even more animated and goofy characters in this one. Again, it's kind of plagued with the same issues as far as the level design and stuff like that. But, man, I love this game. Every time I pop it in, I feel good. I'm happy. Even if I can't beat these games, I still just have fun playing them and just experiencing the goofiness of it all. I mean, even the gun has a funny sound to it. So if you enjoyed, oh look, you see, watch this. You can pick up a pig and carry it around. So again, Earthworm Jim, something different, fun, goofy. Good luck to you on beating this game, but worth it. Pick it up, get it in your collection. Earthworm Jim 2, recommended. Okay, next one up is King of Dragons. Now this is one I didn't get until recently, and I think I remember seeing this in the arcades at one point. You know, I did go to the arcades a lot back when they had more arcades, and I had no idea that they'd release something like this on the Super Nintendo. It is a two-player game, which makes it fun. Couch co-op. You know, you get to choose different characters here. I think I'm usually the elf because of his range, but I'll just be the fighter here. But what's cool is you slowly level up as you go through the level. There you have an all screen attack. But it's kind of a basic slash, you know. It's kind of a, you almost want to call it a side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it's with more of the fantasy. And what's cool is the levels are short and sweet, good graphics. It's a little slow feeling to me, but it's just fast enough to feel fun. And at the end of each level, you fight some type of big dragon or monster or whatever, and that's where the real fun is. And it just goes over and over and over. And instead of having, like, you know, typical 4 to 6 levels, there's several levels with lots of boss fights, and to me, that's what makes it so fun. See, like, look, I'm already at a boss, and we've only been watching this video for a short while. So, King of Dragons, to me, very fun. Love picking this game up, especially couch co-op with my son or a friend, and we just know we're gonna get some easy, fun, action-oriented gameplay. Kind of mindless, but it's fun nonetheless. So, King of Dragons, highly recommended. If you can find this one, pick it up. Okay, next one, Batman Returns by Konami. Now, this game here actually blew me away when I got it. I've had this one for several years now, but the biggest disappointment about this game is that it's not 2-player. If they could have made this game 2-player, it would have been better than all the final fights in my mind. I was very into Batman and the whole universe, and the way this one depicts some of the stuff from the movie. I mean, you look at the size of Batman, he's just as big as Hagar. You can jump, kick. What's fun about this game is you can pick these guys up. You have different moves once you pick them up. Slam them to the ground. Oh, get my butt kicked here. But the music and graphics in this game are top-notch for Super Nintendo. But you can imagine if you just would have had Robin or something to play 2-player, this game would have been, in my eyes, great. So I have beat this game one time. It does get tougher as it goes on. I feel like the challenge is pretty good, and that some of the levels are varied a little bit as you progress through the game. But Batman Returns, if you just want a good solid 1-player experience and you like Batman, this is probably my go-to Batman game on the system for sure. So, Batman Returns by Konami. Definitely recommended. Alright, another Konami game, which, man, without Konami and Capcom, you wonder how good the games would have been for the Super Nintendo, but Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Now here's one, if I'll show you close up with the label, but, you know, the cover on it really didn't do this game justice. I don't think it explained what the game was, and I don't think Zombies back when this was released was quite what it is now with all the zombie killing games. And the whole Zombies Ate My Neighbors is kind of confusing. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? But this is a fantastic 2-player game, so you really want to play this game 2-player. And basically the premise of this game is you run around and shoot zombies and try and collect things, and then eventually warp out of this area to the next level. So see this person here? You saved her. So you want to save everybody in the levels. You get keys. Grants you access. Oh. You can pick up different guns, more ammunition. But what becomes kind of challenging is some of the levels can be somewhat of a maze or a puzzle, to where you can kind of like be like, okay, how do I get over there? You know, you see an area and then you're like, oh dang, like how do I get over that wall? It doesn't seem obvious, but so you'll need to search around, find the keys, or find the kind of the somewhat secret entryway, or jump on a trampoline. But the graphics and the sound and the presentation, everything, awesome. And I can't think of too many other games on the Super Nintendo that are like this, especially once you involve the 2 players. So Plants vs. Zombies, probably not. It's probably in the middle of the road as far as price, but I would definitely get this one. Kind of unique in the whole library on the Super Nintendo. So Plants vs. Zombies, or excuse me, Plants vs. Zombies. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Recommended. Also like Plants vs. Zombies, by the way. Alright, so here's one where some people might disagree with me as well. Kind of like Secret of Mana was a little lower on the list, but Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Man, I want to love this game. I really want to enjoy this game. I like the presentation of it. I like the graphics. Controls well. Sounds good. I mean, everything about this game is great. Except for, I just suck at this game. I mean, I've beat a lot of games on this system. But for whatever reason, Super Ghouls and Ghosts owns me. I cannot, and I've seen other people play through it. And I can never, I mean, I think I've beat the first level. I've gotten to like the second level, maybe. I don't even know if I've made it to the third level. But I do love popping this game in from time to time, and I have a blast for the first level or two. But it's like, man, I always run out of lives by the time I get anywhere. So, the game mechanics in this are just so different from every other game as far as your timing of your jumps and, you know, weapon selection and all that kind of stuff that you can quickly be thinking you're doing great and it's all over. So, love this game. But be prepared to be frustrated to all hell. Like, look at that. There is a good amount of slow motion in this game. Oh, shit. See, I'm dead already. I didn't even make it very far. So, fun game. Super, super challenging. So, no doubt, if you think you own it, you beat every game you got, and you're like, nothing can stop me. Well, if you haven't played this game, pick that up. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Frustrating, but fun. So, recommended, just not one of my top games. Alright, this is probably my favorite Tetris game of all time. Maybe even more than like the original Tetris on the Game Boy, or any of the remakes of the the basic Tetris games. For some reason, this Tetris Attack, just, man, I can play this game forever. And I think what draws me in is, and I'll do stage clear. I think I hit the wrong button. I think what draws me in with this one is that your actions, and you can go through these rounds and you fight basically kind of fight these other guys, but your gameplay affects the other player. And I think that's what's so much fun, is the bigger the clears you get, the better. So this one here is where you just clear the stage, but then you can also have the battle mode. But essentially, you switch these back and forth and you try and line them up. Like, see these blue triangles? And then they go down. And then the whole idea is, as this goes up, you can chain together bigger and bigger chains. And to me, it's just so addicting and an open play style. So now I want to show you, I want to go to versus. Let's choose easy. It's kind of a Yoshi versus Bowser story. And it's just enough story to kind of keep you involved. I don't find it too distracting. So here's the funnest part. So versus sounds like, not your tip, like versus another player, but it's actually you in the story mode. So they kind of named it kind of funny in my eyes. But anyways, let's see if I can show you here. If I can line up something. So see, I got 4, and then it went up, and watch. It dropped down on his side. So what's cool is the better you do on your side, not only does it help you, but then it also causes, I don't want to say damage, but makes it more difficult for them and stacks up their blocks. So the better you do, the faster you can beat your opponent. So super fun game, super addicting. You can play 2-player, 1-player. Man, I love this game. So Tetris Attack. Don't let the silly cover or characters fool you on this one. Definitely very addicting gameplay. So if you like anything similar to Tetris or the original Tetris, you got to pick this one up. Tetris Attack. Highly recommended. Okay, so next one here is Super Street Fighter 2. Now, if you've been watching all the way up to this point, you realize I've already talked about some other fighting games. And you're probably wondering, well, where's Street Fighter 2 The World Heroes or Street Fighter 2 Turbo? Well, for some reason, Super Street Fighter 2 is the one I'm always playing. Now, I think Turbo is probably a little smoother gameplay, and a lot of the purists like the Turbo version. And it may be a superior in the scheme of, pure fighting game. Whoop, sorry. But for some reason, I like the characters and the levels in this game, and the variety. It's just perfect for me. And being able to play as Fei Long and some of these other characters, I don't know. I just love it. So this is where one of my top rated fighting games on this list. So if you're trying to decide which one to get, for me, it's this one and Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And you won't see Turbo on this list. I'll just kind of tell you guys that right now. I probably would have incorporated it right here with this one. Or close to it as far as the fun factor. Just for some reason, I just like the levels and the character selection in this one. So again, you may disagree with me on which one is better, but if you're on the fence, okay, I just want to get one of these Street Fighter 2 games on the Super Nintendo. Which one do I get? I would get this one or the Turbo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, over Alpha or the original. I think that they're more refined games and a lot more fun. And the character selection is just that little bit better, so. Super Street Fighter 2. Kind of a must-have in my eyes. Recommended for sure. Okay, so next one again might be a little controversial as far as the placement on my list, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. I've seen this one as high in some people's top 5 games of all time on the Super Nintendo. And believe me, I have a lot of nostalgia for the Ninja Turtles game, and this is a phenomenal game. Again, a Konami game. Graphics, sound, gameplay, I mean, all top notch for Super Nintendo. This is pretty high up on my list. It is 1 or 2 player. I have beat this game more times than I can count, and that's probably why it's not higher on my list, is I just feel like, me and my son, back when he was, I want to say 3 years old, beat this game together. And for me, it's just a little repetitive, which most of these side-scrolling beat 'em ups are, a little repetitive. But I feel like if I don't play this game for long enough and then I come back to it, I'm refreshed. But it's not one of those games that I, let's just say I beat it today, that I want to play games tomorrow and kind of have a block of time that I go, oh, let's beat it again. It's one of those games that fun to play through, fun to beat. Put it on the shelf for maybe a month or so, come back, and then you're kind of like, oh yeah, this game's fun. Let's beat that again, or So for me, that's kind of where I'm at with it. So initially, if I hadn't played it as much, again, it would probably rank higher on my fun factor level. But so for me, you know, this is where it sits on my list. Love this game. Played it more times than I can count. So probably not much more to say other than recommended, and you got to get this one. Okay, so this next one might be like where people go, this guy's list is crazy, but how does he rate Aerobiz Supersonic over Ninja Turtles? Well, I can just say that the gameplay for me on this is deeper and more addicting. I mean, no doubt this game probably isn't for everybody. You're like an airplane game, like what do? You fly around, like what do you do? I've never heard of Aerobiz. Well, essentially what you do is you manage airports. And you're like, well, that probably doesn't sound fun. But what's really cool is that you get to progress and evolve your planes and their capacity, and you make money, and then you open hubs in new cities, and you expand, and essentially, you know, your end goal is to essentially dominate the globe and international flight. But there's strategy involved, and you got to manage your profits and your costs, and you're competing against other airlines, and it actually becomes very, very addicting. Let's see if I can show you any gameplay. So the music can be a little obnoxious. It's not the greatest, but you can see here, so essentially this is your main hub. This is the game. There's not much more to it. And so this might be super boring to some people. But managing your funds down here in the corner, and you have these people here, they're like your representatives that go out and negotiate contracts at the different airports. And you can go and you can buy planes, and so you have to manage, you have these different manufacturers. There's like Boeing. And then you can see they have, you know, how far can they fly, how many passengers, what's the maintenance and the fuel, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's, as you get into it, it actually is a really fun game. I play this game all the time, and I'm always like, I'll just pop it in. I haven't played it for a while. Next thing you know, 5 hours later, or I'm up till midnight just trying to finish the game, or keep going to the next making one more airport or whatever. So if you like a little bit deeper game and you don't mind a slower pace, very addicting game. Kind of an overlooked game in most people's lists, but Aerobiz Supersonic, there is another Aerobiz, but get the Supersonic. That's the one to get. For me, that's the funnest game. So, recommended. Okay, next game, Star Fox with the FX chip. So, yeah, love this game. I would say when it originally came out, I bought this brand new, played this game a lot. I mean, the graphical presentation, and I think what people lose is the sound in this game is phenomenal. You know, it gets a lot of attention because of the Super FX chip, but for me, the sound design is great. The only thing that kills me on this, why it slid down my list over the years, if I'd have made this list a long time ago, this game would have been up there. The reason it's slid down a little is the frame rate to me is harder to deal with. You know, we're all about 60 frames per second, or now we're getting up to 144 or whatever frames per second. But when you play this game, it just seems a little choppier and slower than you'd like. It doesn't ruin the game for me anymore, but I still love to pull it down and play it. I've beat this on every difficulty level. Barrel roll. This is the kind of the training stage. So if you're a modern gamer and you haven't played this game before, and you're like, I don't know, this looks kind of really old school, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, pick it up. Just be ready for kind of this like a little bit choppier, slower frame rate. But once you get used to it, the controls are very good. You always feel 100% in control of your ship. Oh, mistimed that one. And you do have bombs. These are your other guys here, and they kind of talk to you as you go through the levels. So, Star Fox probably doesn't hold up as well as it did when it originally launched, but one of the best games on the system for sure. And a unique look in the graphics, and like I said, the sound design is great, and very satisfying gameplay when you beat it. You feel like you accomplished something, so Star Fox, still very highly recommended. Okay, next up is Joe and Mac. So those of you who've been sticking through the video and watching, you saw that I had Joe and Mac 2 very early on in the list. Even though that game graphically might be better, for me, and then this is 2 players as well, but for me, I don't know, the charm of this game is just so much better. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the characters or the music or just the level design, but me and my son play this one all the time. And, you know, it does get tough. Even though it seems simple, this game does get tough later on in the game. But fun game. I wish they'd make more of these kind of games. So you get a bone you can throw, which definitely helps. So, I don't know. I just like the sound design and the level design in this one a little bit better. Maybe I have just a little bit more nostalgia for it because I didn't pick up Joe and Mac 2 until later. But I just love cruising around in the caveman days. I mean, think about it. When was the last time they made a good caveman game? I mean, it just doesn't seem like a genre that they make very much of anymore. There's a little baby T-Rex. And I just love when you hit them how they look so goofy. You definitely need these upgraded weapons when you fight the bosses. So you've got a little bit more range. Here to give you a taste of the first boss. So, very fun, big character. You know, bosses typically some type of dinosaur. Oop. Didn't do so good there. So you guys, Joe and Mac by Data East. Definitely pick this one up. Fun game. I constantly revisit it, and I always have fun playing with it, either alone or with a friend. Okay, next one is The Lost Vikings by Interplay. And the sound in this game is fantastic. You know, there is a Lost Vikings 2, which I enjoyed, but man, this original one is where it's at for me. Just listen to that music. So fun. But basically, in this game, the idea is you have these 3 characters. Each one has their own moves, and you can cycle through them. See, like he bonked his head, and then this guy's got a sword, and you know, they all have a little bit of a different arrow, so you can hit the switch, and so together you help each other get to the exit of the level. And I just love how the kind of the goofy character design, the amazing music, and the levels as you progress take a little bit of thought. There's no doubt you're going to fail a few times, you know, before you figure out a level. But fun game, great presentation, and the music, you know, like I said, is fantastic. So, The Lost Vikings. Don't let the cover discourage you. It's a must-have in my mind. So, The Lost Vikings, get the original one. In my mind, it's the best. Get it. Alright, the next 2 games are probably my favorite racing games on the system. And I know, like I said, Mario Kart gets all the attention. But Uniracers, man, I don't think you'll ever find something like this on another system anywhere. But and the graphics they use is kind of like the computer generated stuff. Oh, look at, there's Ryan. Crawler. Dragster. Race. So essentially you're a unicycle and you're on these crazy tracks. And you can do all these stunts. where you can jump and twist. And every time you land a move, this is dragster, so I'm not doing very good. This is just a straight drag strip. I kind of had a bad start. I don't know if I'll be able to catch up. I'll see if I can do a different kind of level. But the idea is that the bigger and the crazier the move, and this actually becomes very challenging because there's no hills on that kind of racing. Let's see, let's do... as the bigger moves you do, the more speed you get, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, whoop. Seeing how it loops around? It's crazy. Oh, you can't do a move on that. I'm not doing so good. But the music is fantastic. It's kind of this like rock and roll, high energy music. And oh yeah, so you can see how you get a little air. I'm trying to see if I can show you where you get some more air. But like I say, the bigger the moves you do, and if you land it, the faster you go. And it's very satisfying once you've learned the tracks, knowing when to jump, when to spin, when to loop. And also next thing you know, you're dominating the competition. It's super fun, and you're always trying to beat your best time. So, very fun game. Uniracers, one of my favorite racing games on the system, just because it's not like anything else. It's a well-made game, and the graphics, while seem simple, are very good, and the music is fantastic. So, Uniracers, pick this one up. Alright, so probably my favorite racing game on the system is Top Gear 3000. There's multiple Top Gear games, and a lot of people want to argue which one's their favorite, but I believe this one also has a special chip in it that helps with the graphics. But what's so fun about this game is not only the sense of speed and the upgrades, you know, and the challenge of managing which upgrades to do and then traveling across the universe. For me, it's just so fun. Let's just race. So basically, see, you've got these galaxies, and you've got this circle of planets, you know, that go around the galaxy. Essentially, you're racing through the galaxy. And you can change the color of your car. We'll choose red. You know, you can upgrade your engine. And these are electric engines. And then, you know, this right here, because this is the beginning, you know, you start with a 4, but it goes up even higher. You know, an engine, and you got tires, and then you've got gearboxes. That's all you can tell, very futuristic. You've got armor. So this is one thing you do have to be concerned about, is armor in this game. Boost. And the fact, because see, the reason armor is important, the faster you go, the more damage you're going to take. And then eventually you can blow up, which is not good. We'll show you a race here so you can see what I'm saying. This is very simple. These are the slowest cars, but it gets pretty intense as you get going. Oh. Boost off the start here. So this is just a real simple square track. See, I'm going about 160 miles an hour. And so you have to manage your charge, which is that bar on the right, and then that repairs you. So it's kind of similar to, like, say, F-Zero or whatever. You got to run over these pads. Because if you don't do that, you're eventually going to run out of electricity, or if you've taken enough damage from running into other cars, that you're going to explode. And really the key to this game is finishing first or in the top 3 consistently and staying ahead of the competition and always having enough money to upgrade. So you can see I'm going about 200. You know, when you get these faster cars and faster upgrades and you're going 300-400 miles an hour, I mean, when you hit a turn, whew, you better be ready. So it becomes very twitchy and knowing when those corners are coming, you know, once you get further in the game. And I like the soundtrack in this game. So some people might like the other Top Gears. For me, this is the one I can play over and over and over. It does have a password system. So, probably the most addicting racing game on the system for me. So, Top Gear 3000. I highly recommend it. Okay, next one is Shadowrun. They have made some more modern releases of this game, which I've played on my computer, but you know, this one here has such a unique soundtrack and gameplay that's different than any other game on the system. So if you're looking for kind of a darker theme, RPG that has a little bit of an action feel to it, but it's more strategic, and it's very story and investigative approach. So what you're doing is you're constantly, talking to people. Let's see if I can start a save game. And you're trying to learn clues on where to go next. So you kind of have this strange view here, but you can tell you have, health and magic, and this is very early on in the game. So it does have, and then you can point and click on things. So let's see if we go over here. Filing cabinet. So you can investigate something, if you go over it. Tons of rooms to investigate. I would say graphically it's not mind-blowing, but as far as the sound design, I think is great. And so you can all of a sudden start getting shot at. And I'm not armed yet. So you can quickly find yourself in a bad situation. So it doesn't look like much, but once you get into the dialogue, so you open, and you start investigating, like, look, all of a sudden I found a dead body. And so, you start investigating these things, and it leads you to one room or the next building, and so forth. So a little bit different pacing of the game that you're probably used to on just a hop and bop Mario game, but if you're wanting something that's different, definitely pick this game up. Kind of a darker, more adult feel to it. Shadowrun by Data East, recommended. Okay, last one in this batch of games, and this could probably rate higher on my list, but we're getting to the point where I'm going to start being into the top 20 or 30 games here real quick. And so some of these games could rate higher or lower, but just know pretty much from this game on, when I start the next batch, all these are going to be must-own games for me, in my mind. But this Kirby Superstar does go for a pretty penny usually. And you get to choose different games. There's 8 games in one. But the graphics, the sound, the control, phenomenal. I wouldn't say I'm the world's biggest Kirby fan, but this game, if you do want a Kirby game, this would be one to get. Who doesn't love Kirby, right? This is a famous soundtrack here. You can transform and get different skills. Now I've got a little buddy. I think that's the funnest thing about this game, is that, and a lot of these Kirby games, is that you get to transform into things that you eat, and then you get their power. So yeah, totally fun. Kirby Superstar, 8 games in one. Great game. Kirby Superstar, 8 games in one. Recommended. Okay, so before we get into my top 20 games, which is the best of the best, or the games that I play the most, I needed to use this game here to cheat a little bit. Just because I wanted to incorporate some of these games into this video. Like I said, I don't own every Super Nintendo game. I haven't played every single game, but I would say probably 90%. And, if I had unlimited funds, I suppose I could go out and buy a physical copy of a few of these games on on this, but what I'm trying to say is everything I've shown you, when I say I recommend it, have been an authentic physical copy of the game, you know, that was originally released back in the 90s. So this here is a Super 101. It's basically like an emulation cartridge, and you know, it had several games on it that are pretty pricey, that I just, for whatever reason, in all of my collecting, either I had at one point and sold, or now the prices are getting so high that, you know, it's kind of hard to justify buying a physical copy. You know, sometimes we're all in that boat where, you know, a game gets over $100 or better, and you're kind of questioning whether it's really worth it or not, especially if you've never tried it before. So I've picked out 7 games out of the 100, and there could be other games on here that could have cracked into my top 100, but maybe are more middle of the road games. So what I really tried to do was share with you my physical collection, and the games that I actually own and actually pop into my Super Nintendo and play. But I wanted to include these because whether you get them on a cartridge like this, or you are able to actually get the physical cartridge, these are games that I think that are worth picking up, and are some very high quality games that I find that are fun. Because these are all on this, I wanted to put these in now before I got to my top 20, because I feel like it's only fair to put a game that I have a physical copy of in the top 20. So these definitely, I would say, are upper echelon games that would be in a lot of people's top 20, or maybe say top 30 or 40 games. So I felt like this was a fair spot to put these. And so first I'm going to start off with the last game on the list, and that would be all the way down here at the bottom. So we've done all the fighting games, but Ultimate Mortal Kombat is probably my favorite game on the system as far as fighting. You know, it's right there with that Super Street Fighter 2. I mean, I go back and forth which one's my favorite. You know, I have more nostalgia for those original Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2. But this one here, you can tell you have 4-player, 2-on-2, 8-player tournament. There's just more variety in this, and it has more characters. You know, I don't play with a lot of these characters. I still find I play with the core characters, like Sub-Zero and Scorpion and Liu Kang and whatnot. But this one right here is probably, arguably, the more fun version of all of them. If you take out the nostalgia part of it, just because of the variety of ways to play. So, I believe I owned this as a physical cartridge at one point. And yes, there is blood in this version. There are the combos, and I think that's what I like about this. You see here right there, I did a 3-hit combo. So, I kind of similar to the Killer Instinct game, which why I like that is that this game really did a good job on upping. You know, you could combo other moves in the other games, but this one really refined it, and yeah, she just whooped my ass while I'm trying to talk here. But it really refined the combo system. And once you get the hang of that, dang. You know, that's the thing. I'm trying to remember some of the moves here I haven't played in a while. But that's the thing, is that the combo system in this is what really makes it fun. And once you learn those, you can really dish out some damage. So, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, it's the one I recommend of all the Mortal Kombats on the system, even though I have more nostalgia for the other ones, and those ones are just as fun. I say own all of them, but if you just had to pick one, this would be the one I would get. Okay, the next game off the 101 cartridge that I want to share with you guys is Cybernator. It's another game that I'm not so sure there's another game like it on the system. Again, another Konami game. I mean, heck, if you only just bought all Konami games, you'd probably have a pretty awesome collection for your system. But this game is just very impressive, I think, is the bottom line. I don't think there's really that many, like, hardcore robot games on the system. So we'll try and jump into a game here. You can see what I'm talking about. Pretty impressive graphics and sound. You know, these stages are huge. And you've got this... Oh. Just a little intro to the story. But what's really crazy is the way you can aim at all sorts of different angles. You got your little bit of limited jetpack, reach higher jumps. But this game, like I said, the big open levels and the way you play, to me, just is a little different than you can find on any other Super Nintendo game. So it's run and gun, action, explosions, robots, you name it. Well-made game. Controls are pretty tight for being a big robot. So Cybernator, check it out if you can. I think this one goes for a pretty price as well, but again, get it how you can. Okay, next one off this cart is Space Megaforce.
Space Megaforce, presented by Toho.
You know, this is a game that I haven't gotten until recently. I never owned a physical copy. I was always just playing R-Type before I started adding all those other shooters that were more towards the bottom of my list. But I would say this one here is damn impressive. And a lot of people argue this is the best one. R-Type 3, I still love that game. But this one, to me, is just a notch above that game as far as fun factor. And I think it's because I prefer my shooters this style versus like the side scrolling. And the weapons in this game can get pretty crazy. And you can change, you know, what your weapons do. But great graphics. Smooth. So if you like shooters, I don't know how you don't get Space Megaforce. Again, I think this one goes for quite a bit, but man, if you can afford it or get it somehow, you got to play this one. Highly recommended. Okay, next one is going to be Knights of the Round. It's another Capcom game. Two-player. Again, this is where you choose, you know, different character. Speed over power, power over speed. So Big gorgeous graphics, big sprites, fun, side-scrolling beat 'em up. You know, this game is pretty fun. If I'd have had the physical cartridge, you know, it's like I go back and forth which one I like better. Do I like this or do I like the King of Dragons better? They're similar type games to me, and I like them both. So if you're into these kind of games, I would say this game along with King of Dragons would be two must-have pickups. So there's a little boss action. So there you go, guys. Knights of the Round. Fun game, especially two-player. I recommend it. Okay, next one off this cartridge would be Super Turrican 2. I showed first Super Turrican. I have an analog NT Super Nintendo, and I may do a video on that eventually, and those games come preloaded on there. But I wanted to show you using this cartridge since it had a lot of the other games on here that I wanted to show. But it's similar to the first game. Run and gun, fast action, shoot everything in sight.
On your fault to Sprinter.
Never played this game as a kid. This is definitely one that I, obviously with this cartridge and my analog NT, picked up more recently. Man, I wish I'd have had this as a kid. I'd have probably thought this was awesome. But as far as quality, well-made game. I keep saying well-made. To me, that just means good control, good graphics and sound. I mean, the presentation and the experiences, you can just tell it was quality. Time was put into making the game. So, Super Turrican 2. Highly recommended, guys. Pick this one up however you can. Okay, number 6 off this cartridge, and one of the other main reasons I bought it was Hagane. Never knew this game existed until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I know, as someone that's collected for a long time, you know, it happens. You know, you just never hear of a game. You know, and I'm not one of those guys that goes out and prints off some mega list of every game made and then just starts buying them off the lists. You know, I find it more fun to just organically experience and find games when you're buying collections or just surfing on eBay or Amazon or wherever you're out looking for a sale. Some cool cutscenes here. But Hagane is definitely one of the more expensive games that you can get as far as a physical copy. We'll skip some of that now. I haven't put a ton of time into this game, but one of these nights I'm going to just say, alright, tonight's the night that I'm going to push myself and see how far I can get in this game. I haven't quite mastered, you know, all the upgrades and techniques in this game and the timing, and I just don't know the levels, and so everything to me is still very new. But man, this game is fun. Action is great. The graphics are great. I mean, look at that. Screen clearing move. You have different weapons based off the situation. I mean, I still haven't even really figured out and perfected all these. But the handful of times I've put maybe, say, 30 to 40 minutes into this game, I'm always like, man, that's the game I gotta go back and revisit. That's the game that I want to say, hey, I didn't look up any cheat codes. I didn't look on the internet. I just played that one to death, had a great time, and I beat it. So this one is definitely on the top of my list as far as games I want to spend a lot more time with and try and perfect. So Hagane, highly recommended. I know it's expensive, but if you can find a way to play it, get it. Alright, so next game on the list is Demon Crest. Man, this game, I remember playing it, I think I rented it, and then I never found it anywhere, ever. And I was always in the back of my mind, I need to find a copy of Demon's Crest. Need to find a copy of Demon's Crest. I mean, I knew I could have just went online and bought it, but I was like, man, one of these days I'm just going to find a copy of Demon's Crest. Well, good luck to you, because I could never find this game anywhere. I just remember this opening sequence going like, okay, I was just playing Mario or some, you know, cute platformer, and all of a sudden you pop this sucker in, you're like, dang. You know? Kind of has that Dracula, dark devil feel to it that you just don't get on hardly any of the other games on the system. So Demon's Crest, we'll check this opening sequence out and let you guys see firsthand what I'm talking about. And check out the graphics too, by the way. And the sound is pretty damn good as well. You can hit jump twice and then float, which is kind of a cool mechanic. You know, this is the opening sequence of the game. I mean, usually this looks like a final boss, right? Got him! I mean, think about it. You've been playing the game for 2 minutes. That was pretty sweet, right? Oh, not dead yet. I always love this part. It's like, you're like, dang, I've only been playing this game 5 minutes and big dragon's coming after me. I just thought that was so cool. I mean, what a cool opening sequence, right? And then look at that spooky background, all the mist and dead looking trees. I mean, super cool vibe. And that music, it's kind of like that organ music. Really creepy. So, guys, if you haven't had a chance to play this game, find a way to, man. Go out and just get a copy if you can, or buy one of these multi-carts, whatever you got to do. But, cool game. Again, this is another one of those games that I've played the first few levels a ton, but for whatever reason, I've never spent as much time as I'd like playing it, even though as much fun as I have with it. So this one, like I said, on Hagane, are on my top of my list to just really dive into and try and beat. So again, Demon's Crest, highly recommended. Alright, realized I had one more off this cartridge that I forgot to make note of, and that is Dracula X. Again, a Konami game. Seems to be a pretty common theme, right? Castlevania Dracula X. Again, this is a super expensive game, which is again why these multi-carts can be nice at times. I'm a purist, and if I ever get a chance to any of these games that are on these multi-carts that I don't own or that I want, I'm going to try and get a physical copy, but Dracula X, or Castlevania Dracula X, is one that I was wanting to play forever, but it just was always out of reach for price and rarity. And I think this goes in the same boat as those last two games. Is I just want to sit down and have Castlevania Dracula X night. You know, I've kind of gone through and played every game on this multi-cart, 101 several times, but I've never just like sat down and played the games for like a gaming night. But man, definitely, it only takes a minute to start playing this game, and you get it. You're like, yeah, this is something I want to play. So similar theme to Demon's Crest, right? Kind of that darker vibe. So, love this game. For the little bit I've played it, I can definitely tell I'm going to want to spend some more time playing this gun. Hold up and you can shoot the axe there. Alright, there you go, guys. Castlevania Dracula X recommended. Okay, if you guys have made it this far, it's much appreciated. Please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're enjoying this content, it is much appreciated. But now we're diving into the top 20. And I gotta tell you, this top 20 was very difficult. Because you kind of, when you're making a top list like this, you're like, okay, what is the funnest game on the list? Which has been how I've been trying to rate them. Or which game was the funnest when you played it originally? Or do you say, well, even though that was my favorite game at the time, you know, now that you've played these games for years and you go back and you play them, is it your favorite game now? And has your favorite games from the past slipped? Or do you just not play them as much? And it's hard not to let your nostalgia, if you've played these games before, weigh into that. And so I'm still trying to stick with, even in my top 20, what games are the funnest to play right now? Like, not that it was amazing when I played it, but which games would I take off the shelf and say, I'm going to have fun, and once I start playing this game, I don't know if I'll stop until I have to. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, I do have two games after I get to my number one that I think you'll be surprised I left out, even though I own them and they are in the top usually of most people's lists, and I'll explain to you why. So if you've made it this far, please stick around to the end of the video. I'll show you a couple surprise games that you might not have seen coming, and I'll kind of explain why I feel the way I do about those particular games. So here we go. Number 20 on my top 100 list is Mega Man X. Mega Man X is a phenomenal game. I think X2 and X3 are great in their own right. But I feel like the original Mega Man X here just nailed it. I mean, everything about it is perfect as far as a Mega Man game goes. It's challenging. It's fun. I still haven't beat it like all the other Mega Mans that I mentioned. But man, every time I'm looking for a challenge or think, oh, this will be the time that I'm going to beat this game or get a little further, I pick it up and I just have a blast. So guys, again, if you want Mega Man game, all of them are great on the Super Nintendo as far as the X series goes. But X, I guess, just still holds a special place for me as far as one of the best Mega Mans of all time. So, highly recommended, Mega Man X. Okay, number 19 on my top 100. Super Castlevania by Konami. So this game here, I go back and forth as far as how much I played it versus I enjoyed it originally. And you know what? It always surprises me. I always think, just kind of basic Castlevania, you know. And I guess maybe I'm not as excited today as I am about Dracula X, because maybe I just haven't played as much of Dracula X. But this Super Castlevania I've played more of. And so, but at the end of the day, I thought, which one did I have more fun with? And I currently have more fun with. It's still this game. If you like the darker feel games, which like I said, there's only a handful in the system, this is definitely the way to go. And this opening sequence is pretty classic, right? And I think the reason this one still rates a little higher for me is the whip control. I mean, man, once you play this one and then you play another Castlevania that doesn't have it, you'll be going like, hey, how come I can't do that with my whip, right? And I think that's ultimately why I enjoy this Castlevania more than just about anyone out there. It is my favorite Castlevania on the system. Great atmosphere, great music, killer vibe. Challenging yet fair. If you guys aren't sure about this one, you shouldn't hesitate. Pick it up. Highly recommended. Okay, number 17 on the list, and this one's going to be controversial because a lot of people think this is probably going to be a lower tier game, but Super Smash TV, and this is 100% based off the fun factor. I don't know how many times I'm just like, oh, I just want something that I already know how to play. I don't have to remember all the controls or whatever. I can go a month, 6 months, or a year without playing this. Jump in, pick it up, know exactly what I need to do, and have fun every single time. And it is 2-player, which is the main thing too, is when you get a second player, so much fun. So this game, it's not about the graphics. While the sound is pretty good, you know, all the guns have their own sound and look. It's not about the graphics. It's about the gameplay, the fun, the reaction, the strategy of, okay, do I clear this guy over here? Or wait, do I clear that mob of guys over here? But wait, they're coming from this side. Or do I go towards an upgrade or a power up? Or do I get the money? But wait, if I get the money and I head that way, I might die. And so you're constantly balancing, okay, do I go for score, upgrades versus the risk of potentially dying? And the variety of these rooms. So when you clear a room, you get to decide, okay, which way do I want to go? So each time you play, you can be like, oh, so I usually take this route. Why don't I try this route? You know, or that you learn this is a better route, or you just want to mix it up. So for me, the fun factor on this game, despite it maybe not being the most technically superior game on the list, I'm telling you guys, buy this game. You probably don't have to pay too much for it. And you'll just be like, oh dang, I gotta go again. Every time you die, you're gonna wish you would have made it just a little bit further. Super Smash TV, highly recommended. Leave your comments below. What do you guys think? Is this game fun or what? Okay, number 16 on the list, Final Fight 2. So I've already had the other Final Fights on the list. Obviously you can tell I'm a fan of this type of gameplay. I really like Final Fight 3 for a lot of reasons. And this one's also 2-player. Just that original one that I showed is 1-player. But this one here, I don't know. I find myself playing this one more than the other ones. Maybe it's the soundtrack. I don't know what it is. But if you're wanting a side-scrolling beat-em-up, you can't go wrong with Final Fight 2. Boom. Something satisfying about kicking these guys' ass. Alright guys, Final Fight 2. Recommended. Okay, next one on the list. Number 15. Super Punch-Out! I grew up loving Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and I dreamt of the days of an upgrade to that. Because it's really more than just a boxing game. It's about the timing and the moves and countering. And I would just say that no matter how many times you play this game, you're going to get knocked down at some point until you really just master this game. It's just like the original one. You know, you beat the first couple guys, think you've got it all figured out. But what's great about this one is you've got this super meter down at the bottom, and you can either unload a rapid succession of punches or one big punch. See how that was a big punch? Or, once you get hit, you lose it, see? Or, so you can do these like boom, 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 boom. Boom. Down he goes. Super Punch Out, guys. Highly recommended. Super fun and addicting. Super Punch Out. Get it. Okay, guys. Number 15. What is it? It's an interplay game. And it's Blackthorn by Blizzard Entertainment. You know, this is another one of those games where the feel, the music, and the graphics just all tie in so perfectly. It's probably not up there this high on a lot of people's lists, but I love this game, and I haven't beat it yet. I've tried and gotten pretty far. It's a password system type game, but I just love the way this game plays. We'll go ahead and watch this intro here for a minute. Look at these creepy dudes. Plus, I just think the guy you play as is total badass. For some reason, this is one of those ones where it's like I'm thinking back to that game Sparkster that was lower on my list, where character design was everything, even though the game was pretty good. And to me, this is one where character design was nailed perfectly and everything matched up. So we'll get into a game here. So we skipped some of the cinematic, but basically, you're this guy here with a shotgun, and the whole premise is, see when I push up, you become in the shadows. And that's basically like a dodge move. And so whenever somebody shoots something at you or you want to be hidden, you can go like that, and all of a sudden you're hidden. And then you can shoot, put your gun away. You can do a behind you shoot, which is cool. To me, this just doesn't get old. But you do have to be strategic in way you move, because you can fall and die in this game. And having your weapon drawn versus not, your character responds a little differently. So essentially, there's in this big like cave encampment, and you're trying to save these guys, but you can also shoot them if you want to. I swear, that never gets old. And see, if you have your weapon drawn, you can't jump, so you got to put it away. And you can get some other weapons, so these are bombs. Boom. So here's my first fight. See how he's put away? Now watch. Boom. Down he goes. So fun, guys. And it gets more and more strategic and strategy involved as you go. Trying to solve these maze-like levels. Super fun. Great music. I could just play this game over and over and over again. You gotta pick it up, guys. Blackthorn by Interplay. Check it out. Highly recommended. Number 14, Rock and Roll Racing. And if you can't tell by the intro music, The soundtrack is what makes this game. I swear, if this had a different soundtrack, game just wouldn't be the same. I could play this game constantly. Any night, any day, you name it. And while I already said that Top Gear 3000 was probably my favorite racing game, I kind of don't almost think of this as a racing game. Yeah, you're racing, but it's more of like a battle game where you race around these tracks, earn money, get upgrades, blast each other to pieces, and really, you can not be the best racer, but if you learn how to upgrade your weapons and blast the other guys, you earn money and can stay ahead of a faster vehicle, basically. And you can see in the background, you can upgrade to multiple vehicles, but man, the music never gets old. They all are basically slimmed down version of famous rock and roll songs, and the characters are great, the music's great, and there's a good variety of tracks. If you guys are overlooking this one because it looks like a simple like remote control RC type game, don't. Give it a try. It's fun. 1 player, 2 player, rock and roll racing by Interplay. Highly recommended. Pick it up, guys. Super fun. Okay, number 13, Contra 3 Alien Wars by, you guessed it, Konami. Now this game is one of those games where you can die within the first 10 seconds of playing. But then, as you gain skill and experience, you make it farther and farther and farther each time you play. And I think that's what keeps people coming back to this game, is you can instantly jump in, kind of understand what you need to do, but it ain't easy. So let's go ahead and jump into a game here. Check it out. So you can squat, shoot up at angles, you can let off bombs, but it's one-hit deaths. Guys come from in front of you, behind you. Spread is probably most people's favorite gun in the game. Oh, see, I died already. This is definitely one of those games where you can enjoy it in short bursts. Oh, see, I died again. Or if you decide to sit down and really try and master the levels, you start to learn the patterns, because everything's the same every time. So if you die once, you can kind of learn, okay, I can dodge this, go here, go there, and keep progressing through the level. But you can see I'm almost done. Not easy game, and I think that's why people love this game. It's why it rates so high for me, and it's 2-player. So if you got a friend and you want to team up and see how far you can make it, fantastic game to try and see how far you can get. Good graphics, good sound, the pacing is amazing, you never feel bored. So guys, Contra 3 Alien Wars, if you haven't heard of it, pick it up. Excellent game, highly recommended. Okay, number 12 on the list, and I know this one's a lot of people's all-time favorites, Chrono Trigger. Again, this was one of those ones where when it came out originally, I think I bought this new, and you know, I've played it from time to time over the years. I beat it back then, but I can never get myself to play through long enough to beat it again. And I remember when I was done with it, you know when you're done with the game and you're like, man, that was one of the best experiences I've had playing a game ever. I kind of remember having that feeling when I played this game for the first time. Now, coming back to it, it keeps dropping for me year after year just because the time investment involved in it. But really, from a production and a story perspective and the graphics and the way everything gets tied in, top notch. And a lot of people would probably rate this even higher. So just understand, if you're going to play this RPG, play it all the way through. don't just play it for 10 minutes, you know, or 20 minutes and then forget about it. Sit down and commit to it, and it gets better and better as you go. So, a lot of people consider this game a masterpiece, and it definitely is. So, you guys, if you haven't played Chrono Trigger or heard of it for some odd reason, pick it up. Chrono Trigger, awesome game. Highly recommended. Okay, number 11. And oh man, this game used to rank a lot higher for me. I still would say if between Final Fantasy III and Chrono Trigger, if I'm going to put one in and play it, I tend to lean towards the Final Fantasy III. I just like the music, the story, the characters a lot better. And I probably could have beat this game several times over if I would add up all the times I've played through about halfway and then got distracted with other games. And then when you come back, you're like, oh, I can't quite remember what's going on in the story, so I'm going to start fresh. And every time I say, oh, I'm just going to play for an hour, I end up playing it all night and getting as far as I can. Or playing it for an entire weekend. But you can easily put, look here, 50 hours into a game. So, fantastic game, guys. Excellent graphics, excellent sound, battle system. I mean, this game's on most people's top 10 list. This is number 11 for me. Again, it's more of a time constraint and probably more fun when I originally played it, and I have less and less time for these kind of games. But man, if you're into RPGs, can't beat it. Final Fantasy III by Squaresoft. Highly recommended. Okay, here we go. Top 10. I know this is what you've been waiting for. You're like, Ryan, just get to it. I've been watching this video forever. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. To me, this just has everything. It's beautiful to look at, even though the graphics in today's standards are a little muddy, but I love the graphics of this game, the sound, the humor, and the combat system is what really always gets me. You know, it's like a timing thing when you get into combat, is you got to time your hits, time your jumps, time your defense, and you really feel like you're more engaged. Instead of just selecting something and then the animation plays out, you feel like you're involved in the success of the battle a little bit more. And I feel like that's really the magic for me in this game, other than obviously the Mario universe and the characters and some of the fun mini games and stuff that you get to do, is that you feel more control of the combat instead of a predetermined mathematical equation. You feel like if you time your attacks and defenses a little better, you know, you can have better success than if you just are lazy and don't do it. And of course, all the upgrades and everything are fantastic. So, you guys, I've beat this one probably more than any of the RPGs on the system. I just beat it over and over and over. And it's fun. You get to determine your upgrades so you can have more power, more hit points. A lot of flexibility in how you want to play. So, I could go on and on. Super Mario RPG, guys. Awesome game. Don't just think it's another, you know, platformer. It is an excellent, excellent RPG. Highly recommended. Okay, number 9. This is where things get interesting. Ogre Battle. March of the Black Queen. I love this game. Oh, man, do I love this game. I will play this game any day, anytime. If I see it there, I'm playing it. You know, it's maybe this is one of those games that's probably going to be polarizing. Be like, wow, how is that number 9 on an all-time list? I've never seen that before. This is more of a hidden gems kind of game. Well, there's a reason for it. Is that at face value, people don't understand the game, and it can kind of throw people off. But essentially, if you're not familiar with the Ogre Battle universe, is you have all of these units. And they each have different characteristics. Some are better at the front row versus the back row. taking damage versus dealing damage, healing. Some can, and then when you get into the game on the maps, you know, some are better on the mountains or the water or the plains. And it's very strategic in how you have your different teams or units, I guess, engage their units, and then how you gain experience and they level up in class, and you can give them equipment. Very, very deep and very, very engaging. Like, let's take a look at this group right here. And you can see they've got strength, agility, intelligence, and you can equip an item. I mean, just way deeper than I think people give it credit for. So here's the next map that you can battle. And there's a whole tarot card system that can randomize, you know, your starting character. But it's basically the levels of this mode 7, and that was the boss, and this is your starting point. And you have no idea where they're coming from. And then you have these cities, which is that red spot right there that you can capture and gives you income. And then there's a whole day-night cycle that's up here in the corner. And then that meter there is a whole nother deal. Won't get into that. But essentially, when you start these, you can choose to move. And that's one of your characters. And then you can deploy a unit. You say, do you wish to deploy this unit? Yes. And then you can tell it where to go. Deploy a unit. Yes. Let's just head straight for this, so you can zoom in and out. We're just going to head straight for this boss. Deploy a unit. Head straight for the... And there's a lot of hidden secrets too that you can only discover once you've gone over them. So to find a lot of items, you got to kind of explore the map. Alright, we'll try and let this play out a little bit. But you can see these maps are huge. And you see, I can't see the enemy now. See all my guys moving? I'm going to move them down here. And then once you get closer to the enemy units, they will become visible. And there's a whole day-night cycle. You can see it changing. So some characters fight better during the day versus the night. Oh, great. Here we go. Maybe we'll get to see a battle. And this is where all of a sudden you go, wait, this looks like a terrible graphics. And then you get to this, and then you're like, oh, sweet, this is cool. And you've got this strategy, too, that you can use your tarot cards and your tactics so you can do the best, the strongest, the leader, the weakest one. And you can use these tarot cards. Chariot, right? Let's just use this one for example. And it helps give you the upper hand in a battle. So, super fun, guys. Such a deep game. I swear, I don't know why this isn't at the top of almost everybody's list out there. I just think people don't understand it or don't give it a chance, you know, on face value. Once you get into this game, by far, I'll play this more. I probably put more hours into this game. I've beat it several times, and each time I try to upgrade my guys just that little bit different. So, super fun. Ogre Battle, a little on the expensive side, hard to find. But definitely worth it, guys. Highly recommended. Pick it up. One of my favorites. Okay, number 8. And this may be another shocker, but Metal Marines. Tell me how many of you actually heard of this game, or played it for that matter. Metal Marines is one of those games that, like I've said on a bunch of these towards the top, that I can come back to time and time again. It is a password system type game. Single player, but it's a military strategy type game where you have a base, they have a base, and it's all laid out in a grid pattern. And you coordinate your attacks versus their attacks. You try to earn money to build up your base and eventually take out their main bases. And typically they have, you know, 3 bases, and once all 3 of their bases are gone before your 3 bases are destroyed, you win. You move on to the next level. You know, once you've learned the level, the computer typically attacks and acts kind of the same way every time. You can kind of learn the levels, which can make sometimes when you start a level, you already kind of know the best pattern to beat that level. You know, and they introduce you to this as the guy that, you know, you're fighting against, and he talks a little bit of smack to you and whatever. But so when you start out, this is really basic. This one starts you off with a bunch of stuff for your bases. So these guys here are Marines. Those are offensive missiles. These are defensive turrets, radars that help improve your defense for your anti-air missiles. So these will shoot down their missiles. Factories and money factories help you basically build stuff and earn money faster. So to start off, you know, you place your bases. So you place base 1. This one kind of helps you out first level. Base 2. You know, I suppose you put base 3 right here. But what's always a given is when you hit start down there in the corner, 52 seconds I believe it is when they attack. So as long as you attack before that, you'll get the first attack. But of course you need enough energy. So if you can see up at the top there, you've got your funds and your energy. So we're going to start, and I'll kind of show you how the gameplay goes. So, you know, you could add a little defense around your base. You could build another missile. You know, it takes a little time. Or you can build up. So see how it's a single missile? I'm going to upgrade that to a double missile. And maybe upgrade that to a double missile. And then you've got your Marines here. And I'm just going to wait for that to upgrade. Okay, see now that's a double missile. And we're at 26 seconds, so we've got a little bit of time. Maybe we'll build up a Marine here. I don't know if I'm going to get that built up in time, but I'm pretty much out of funds. But you can see each second, I'm getting more funds. And that's where these factories come into play. Alright, we're at 43 seconds, so I'll wait till about 50 seconds, and then I'm going to hit attack. So then here's the top view of your island, basically. And they have an island that you're going to attack. And you can select which order they fire in. And once you've selected, they auto-fire. So for me, I'm going to take my double missile. And I'm going to shoot right about here. And then take this double missile and shoot right about here. And then we'll kind of see what happens. And see, when you shoot, it'll reveal what they've got over there. So now this is auto playing out. Shooting over a missile. Double missile. Okay, boom. Blew up one of their anti-air missiles. So now I have a greater chance of success for my next missile to go through and land. Okay, oh, they got one, but I did get this. So now it exposed some more of their stuff. So now if I hurry up and hit the attack button again, I still have 3 missiles less to shoot. But see, now it exposed and showed me where that landed and this landed. So now I know there's more targets here. And I'm going to see what's over here. And we'll go ahead and attack again. Now this is the first level that I've played several times. And even though it's been a while, see, now they shot it out. But now I know, see that Marine they got there? Now I know what they've got. And it's all about where you attack and this grid pattern. And until you learn the level, okay, see there's a bunch of missiles, offensive missiles there. So now that I know those are there, see it's all about kind of seeking out what they have and then destroying it. So now I know they've got missiles here. I'll send over a Marine and let's see what happens. So they get in a ship, and you can send up to 3 Marines, but remember, each time it uses up your energy. So sometimes it's more strategic to send everybody out at once, or just one or two little shots at a time, gather some intel, and then send out the reinforcements to blast out everything that you just saw. And you can outfit these guys with different type of weapons too, which are better versus different types of defenses. So some might be better versus other Marines or gun pods. So what's great about that attack is I took away some of their offensive abilities. So now what I could do is I'm going to take all three of these Marines that I've got, if I've got enough energy, and I'm going to send them on over to the base. Now I'm showing you a little more gameplay on this one just because I feel it deserves a little more attention and get an idea of how this works. So now I've got 3 Marines versus their 2 Marines and a gun pod. So where you can place them is kind of a strategy. So let's see, one, my gold Marine, gun pod, and that's an anti-marine gun. So here we go. Let's see how I do. Okay, my gold Marine's down. Got him. So now they got nothing left to defend. And then once I destroy this base, now as you progress, they have more bases, but I believe this first level just has 1 base. So simple introduction, boom, beat the first level. And it just keeps getting better and better as you go. You never got to see them attack, and that's the part that sucks, is when they attack, they can destroy some of your stuff, and then you're left going, crap, my whole plan just went to shit, and now I got to figure out how to rebuild and attack at the same time. So one of my favorite games that's not a typical top of the list kind of game. Super fun, super rare. I'm sure it's not going for cheap, but guys, if you want something fun that's different than not everybody else has played, Metal Marines. I've never seen it on another compilation card or anything like that, so good luck finding it. Super fun if you can get it. Highly recommended. Okay, next one. Number 7, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. You know, there's a ton of videos on this game. A lot of people probably know this game or know Zelda series, but if for some reason you skipped Super Nintendo or just never had one, I mean, this game is a must. I don't know if I revisit it as much as some of these other games, but every time I do, I have a blast. And I beat it once. And, you know, it's one of those things too, so when you beat a game, it's like, how often do you visit once you've beat it? I beat it once a long time ago. I've made several attempts to beat it again. You can see these saves have quite a bit of hearts. But there's a lot of other videos with in-depth gameplay on this, but man, what a great game this is. Puzzle solving, action, great bosses. And this is kind of towards the end of the game, so if you guys haven't tried this game, give it a try. It is one of the best Zeldas, like they say. Can't go wrong. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Recommended. Okay, number 6. Donkey Kong Country. You know, this game may have a few flaws when you look back at it now, but if you've never played it, you got to play it. It's a must-have. I mean, the graphics, the sound, the control, the level design. I know some people, if you've watched other videos on Donkey Kong Country, sometimes they get frustrated by some of the hidden barrels and whatnot. But, man, this is a fun game. You know, and the bosses, I guess you could argue, are a little repetitive and weak, but it's not. This game isn't about the bosses. It's about exploring the levels and having fun with the rhythm of jumping on their heads and that kind of stuff. It's kind of, I kind of think of it as like a rhythmatic kind of game, really. go back here to like the very first opening level. And the soundtrack in this Donkey Kong Country series is phenomenal. I mean, it's some of the best. So you can be Donkey Kong, or you can switch to Diddy. They have a little bit different characteristics. You can pick barrels up, collect stuff. But you can see how if I wouldn't have timed that just right, I would have never got that one up. And you'll see stuff off screen sometimes where you're like, hey, how do I get that? And then it's a one-time opportunity, and then you're like, you go back to try and get it and it's gone. So there's a lot of replayability in the levels where you go, dang, how do I get that? I can't get that now. And so then you go back and you play the level and you realize there's sometimes a rhythm and a timing to it. And that's, to me, where the fun's at, is learning where stuff is in the level and then understanding how to collect it all in the right order. So you can get extra lives, all of the Kong letters or bonus levels. So tons of other videos, like I said, with the Zelda game out there on this. But man, don't worry what people say that it doesn't hold up or whatever. I mean, this could be #1 on some people's lists. Excellent game. Donkey Kong Country, phenomenal game. Highly recommended. Okay, #5. Super Mario All-Stars? But wait, Ryan, isn't that just 8-bit games? That's not a Super Nintendo game. Well, they took all the awesome Mario Brothers from the NES and upgraded the graphics. So you get Mario Bros, Few Lost Levels, Mario 2, and Mario 3 all in one package with save states. You can't beat it. And it's hard to go from these graphics back to the old ones, and the convenience of the saves. And sometimes you play this for so long and then you happen to play the original and you miss the upgraded graphics. So let's just play Super Mario Brothers. And you can already tell, see the grass and the background. You know, everything's upgraded. Oh, died on the first one. So here you go, Super Mario All-Stars. It's got all the best Mario games from the NES all on one cart, upgraded graphics and sound. And the controls are just as tight as the original. There you go, guys. Not trying to set the world on fire with my gameplay, just trying to show you how the graphics have been upgraded and it plays the same, just looks and feels a little better. Super Mario All-Stars, great package. Pick it up, even though if you feel like you've played the originals to death. I can't get enough of these games, and playing them in this kind of upgraded package is only better. So Super Mario All-Star, guys. Highly recommended. Pick it up. Alright, so this next game probably needs no introduction. Super Mario World. I mean, probably the most popular and famous game on the system. Launch title with the system. But man, was this a masterpiece or what? I mean, this game is more complex than I think people give it credit for. More secrets, more nuances to the gameplay, and being able to ride Yoshi. I mean, what else can you ask for, right? Charming music, even the graphics hold up, gameplay's tight, and it's a long playthrough. I mean, if you just try to play it through like normal, I mean, it could take you a while. So you definitely get your money's worth. So Super Mario World, guys, it holds up to its reputation. Highly recommended. if for some odd reason you don't have this or don't know why you don't have it, you gotta get it. Super Mario World. Okay, number 3. We're almost there. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. I know, the baby. He can be distracting. But if you set that aside and you're good at the game and he doesn't get knocked off Yoshi that often, this game is amazing. I mean, the graphics, the sound, the being able to shoot the eggs, the secrets, the hidden areas, and the fact this has the FX chip in it to help out with the scaling and stuff in the graphics. Oh man, I love this game. And every time I come back to it, I'm just like, dang, they really did one with this game. Yes, I wish that the baby Mario wasn't crying all the time, but like I say, if you get good at the game and you learn how to get him back right away, not a big deal. But man, this game has so much charm. And just being able to try and collect everything. See, he's telling you how to shoot. Then you shoot these, and then look. Whoop, there goes the stairs. Yep, that's the annoying baby Mario. So there you go, guys. Number 3 on my list. Long playthrough, tons of secrets and hidden areas. You could be playing this game forever and never find everything. Well worth the money. Don't let the baby fool you. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, highly recommended. Okay, so before I get to my top 2 games, I've been teasing that there's a couple of games that are in a lot of people's top lists that aren't going to make my top 100. And it's not that they're not a well-made game in the sense that pretty graphics, decent sound. It's just that I do not have fun playing them, period. And that's the bottom line for this list was, are these games fun to play? I don't care if they had top-notch graphics or sound or some kind of cool feature or different. If I plug it in and don't have any fun, I mean, isn't that why we play games, right? So this first one, man, I want to love this game so bad, but it frustrates the hell out of me, and I just don't like it. Here it is, ActRaiser 2. This game is tough as balls. That's all I gotta say. Tough as balls, hard as hell to figure out. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. I've tried to play this game many times over the years. You look at these graphics, and you're like, whoo, this looks sweet. Man, can't wait to play this game. This guy is awesome. He's got wings and a sword and a shield. And then you play it. Yeah, see how this guy's like beating all these guys? Yeah, no. That's not what it's like when you actually play the game. When you play the game, you take 3 jumps and you die. And you die, and you die, and you die. I mean, this hype video here at the beginning totally oversells the game. Because look at this. Who wouldn't want to play this? I'm telling you, the only way I'm ever going to play this game again is probably if I have like a Game Genie or something, where I can just totally cheat, be invincible, or something like that, because otherwise, there's no way in hell I make it very far in this game. So now that that looks totally cool, and you're like, Ryan, you're crazy. This is a fantastic game. So you saw all that hype, right? Now this is all of a sudden the game. You're like, oh, ton of text, whatever, blah blah blah, and then you're like, oh, what's this? What do I, like? Okay, how about I click on that? Oh nope, back to the words. Okay, I'm over a city. Oh nope, back to the words. Try a different button. LR zoom. Oh crap! See, what the hell do I do? It takes a while until you like search around. You see these like little, see the circle of dots right there? Then you click on it. Then you're like, oh, more text. Oh, now it's gonna launch me into a level. And then this is where the real hell starts. I mean, maybe some of you guys out there that are just amazing at video games are like, shh, I beat that game with my eyes closed. No, not me. I don't know what it is, but I just see when something dies, it explodes. Shoots at a fucked up angle, you get hit. Come down and hit it as many times as you can. Then you try to cross the pits, barely making it. Then you land and you get hit. Oh, now his body came back to life. Oh, and then it spits stuff on you and die. Look at that. I'm dead already. You tell me, was I doing that bad of a job? I mean, no mercy. And I tell you what, I don't know if I've ever made it much farther than that. So, Actraiser 2, I mean, if you get it for free, sure. Maybe you can have more fun with it than me, but me, it's never going to be on my top 100. Actraiser 2, I do not recommend. Thumbs down. This one should just go straight in the trash. Alright, so this is the second of the two games that are not on my top 100, even though a lot of people are probably going to disagree. But I thought this game was like a holy grail game, and I was so excited when I got it. And I got this before the Super Nintendo Classic Mini came out. And when I started to play it, I realized, no, this game's not for me. So here it is, Earthbound. And yes, this is an authentic copy of the game. I don't know, man. I was so wrapped up in the hype, thinking this was a hidden gem. It was super expensive. And, you know, had all this fun, quirky characters and dialogue. I don't know, man. I can't get into it. I couldn't get into it. I mean, these just these goofy-ass kids. Maybe it's because I'm an adult and I just can't relate to it. And it seems to be a common theme for me as I've gotten older, is that character design is everything. Even though the gameplay may be okay, nah, I can't sit down and play this crap for, 40 hours or whatever it takes to beat this game. No thanks. So, leave your comments below on this one, guys. I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but I don't know if I'm going to get rid of it just because it's rare and expensive, but Earthbound for me, nah, not in my top 100. So, thumbs down, Earthbound. Alright guys, we're almost there. And I really appreciate you watching this video if you've made it this far. We're at that moment, we're down to the final two games. These two games to me represent almost absolute perfection in the 16-bit era. And as far as the fun factor, I think are two of the funnest games. One definitely is my favorite and has been my favorite for a long time, and I'll explain it to you and show you why. But number two is no slouch, but I think over the years going back to it, I'm always surprised like how perfect these two games are as far as gameplay, graphics, sound, character design, just the pacing of the game, and how rewarding the gameplay feels. So thank you guys. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you've enjoyed this type of content, this video has taken a lot of work and a lot of time, and I've really enjoyed doing this, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. And also hit that bell icon. I've been trying to put out at least a video or two a week, and so that'll keep you guys current on when I put out my next video. And also in the comments below, if you've made it this far, leave a console or system that you'd like to see another top 100 or top 50 or something like that, and I'll do it again with maybe another system. But here we go, guys. Final two. Okay, guys, number 2 on the list is number 2 in the series, Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Kong Quest, by Nintendo, of course. To me, this was the epitome of the side-scrolling platformers. I think Super Mario World and some of those ones are pretty good, but to me, this one just has more of a magical quality to it, kind of a little bit more modern, updated feel to it. The graphics, the gameplay, the character design, the levels, everything to me is great. It's sad that Donkey Kong himself isn't in this game, but I think Diddy and and Dixie are a good combination. But I just love how, like, the music, right? You're on a ship here, and then you've got this, like, creaking sound that all of a sudden bursts into a soundtrack, and I don't know. I love how there's all sorts of little secrets. I mean, see how the music's starting to kick in? I mean, it's just wonderful how they really coordinated all that. So for me, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest is by far my favorite platformer on the system. I think it's the funnest, and I think it's really just a masterpiece as far as the gameplay goes. You know, a lot of people kind of dog on these games sometimes, but being able to ride different animals, and I mean, just look at that, boom, boom, boom. To me, that's just so much fun versus kind of your random characters placed, you know, every 5, you know, feet. Oh, go a little bit further, another character or another enemy. Plus, I always love how he jams out here at the end. So I know a lot of people might not have Donkey Kong Country 2 as their number 2. You know, it's probably in a lot of people's top 10, I would say. But really, when it boils down to it, I mean, most of the games on the Super Nintendo are side-scrolling platformers, and for me, this is by far the most magical one that has, I don't know, kind of has it all. So there you go, guys. Number 2 on the list. Any guess on what number 1 is? Have you figured it out yet? We'll see. It's coming up. Donkey Kong Country 2. Ryan recommends. Okay, here it is. Number 1. You may have guessed it. Super Metroid. Man, I tell you, I don't know if there's another game on the system, maybe other than Donkey Kong Country 2 in its own unique way, but this one that really sets a mood and a vibe and kind of this like creepy feel. And I'm telling you, it's so much about the music. I really feel like music in today's games kind of forget what it's there for, you know? It's not about just slapping on a remix of some current music track. You know, what's fun about all these Super Nintendo games is that they all have this unique feel to them, and the sound is original to those games. You know, it's not something that's just like rehashed. And I think that's, to me, what makes most of these 16-bit games special. And Super Metroid, my favorite game of all time, is the combination of the excellent graphics, the varied gameplay, the great level design, and the music. Oh, just the music. It's the best. And it seems like no matter how many times I play this, I'm always forgetting where a few of the hidden secrets are, but it's always fun to rediscover those, even if I know most of them by now. Mother Brain. That drum sound. Just in case you're curious, we're going to play through this first part of the game just so you guys can see some of the gameplay. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on this game and kind of this top 100 list to sum it all up. And so right away here, you're instantly set off on this adventure, and you land in this space station, and it's like kind of creepy, it's quiet, you're kind of like not sure what's going on, you know, there's nothing around. Show up in this room and you've got dead bodies on the ground. You're like, oh boy, something happened here, right? This is the famous Ridley character that's shown up in some of the other Metroid games. And you can't defeat this particular boss, by the way. Your first time, I don't mean to be a spoiler on it, but your first time through, you think you're getting your ass kicked and you're about to die, but it's just really how the game goes. So now you gotta exit out of here quick. And so instantly the game's like, gives you a creepy vibe, a taste of how the bosses are, and then you're in a total panic that you have to exit, otherwise this thing blows up, you know, before the timer runs out. I mean, this kind of stuff is unheard of back in the 16-bit era, to set such suspense and anxiety and feeling like rushed, and you're not even like 100% sure what the controls are, you know, if you haven't played the game before, and you've got all this steam, and now all of a sudden the whole level starts rotating, and I don't know, it's just, for me, it's an awesome start to the game. And here you go. You land on this planet. You're not 100% sure what's going on. It's raining, it's stormy. And one thing that's always I've loved about this game, and a lot of other games have started to use it, is, you know, this map and this grid system tracking where you've been, where you are. You know, your suit that you can get all the upgrades in makes this game just so much fun. And it's just like, you can't just go to the right and finish the level. You know, like on Mario, you go hop, hop, hop to the right, and you know the level's done. So there's so much known. This game has such a good sense of creating the unknown. Like, you don't know what's around the corner if you haven't played this before. And I think, to me, that's what makes it so magical, is there's so much unknown, and you're not always 100% sure where you should go. Although it doesn't confuse you purposely, you don't always know, okay, yeah, I just go to the right until I reach the flag and then I'm on the finish line, right? See, like that area, you go in there, oh, I don't know how I go through there. Oh, I don't know how I open that door. Right? So there's a lot of things at first where you're like, hey, I see I can go somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure how I get there. Or how do I eventually get what I need to get to that spot. And I think that's what makes this game so cool. And the whole time you've kind of got this, like I said, this creepy, lost in space vibe. So yeah, like at this point you've already passed a couple doors, a couple secret ways to go, and you're just already like, man, where am I going? You know? Go this way. You're like, oh, here's something. And the beginning of upgrading your suit starts here. So now you're like, oh, morph ball, cool. You're like, what the hell is that thing? There you go, morph ball. There we go, first missile. So you gotta love this game, man. I mean, just if you haven't played it, play it any way you can. By far the best game on the system. I think the best game within the 16-bit era. And a lot of times when people ask me, "Hey Ryan, you know, what's your favorite video game of all time?" And for many years, I've always said Super Metroid. Now, you know, I've had some other really good experiences. Kind of when I played Uncharted for the first time, or Uncharted 2, and then The Last of Us on the PS3. I mean, those games emotionally struck a chord with me, and I kind of were thinking, oh, those might be some of the best games of all time. You know, you could go on to the 64 and argue maybe there's a game there, or the GameCube, you know, and so on and so forth. But for me, Super Metroid is where it's at. And what's great is now you've got all these little alien bug creatures, and you're like, hey, I was in this room before, and now there's all these bugs everywhere, right? To where before there was nothing in here. So just, you know, just when you think you had it figured out and you start backtracking, now all of a sudden you're going to have to deal with a bunch of creatures that weren't there before. So I could go on and on and on and on why this game is so good. But you guys, I really, really appreciate it. I think I'm going to end the video here. I really appreciate you watching all the way to this point. Doing this video has been a complete joy for me. I'm sure I left out a few of your favorite games, or I didn't rate them the way you would rate them, but hey, that's why this is my top 100, and heck, if you guys want to do your top 100, go right ahead. I'd love to see yours. But if there is a huge omission in your mind that I left off this list, or I missed something, because granted, I don't have every single game. I mean, I have a pretty good collection, but if you feel there was something I totally missed, let me know. Leave the comments below, and we can talk about it. Alright, thanks guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Super Metroid. Possibly the greatest game of all time.